Yeah,
That's
for
live on custom live
Guys.
streaming too.
Often it's not me, it's Zoom. And
Zoom says you're streaming.
Oh, okay. Thank goodness. And Butter, you'll watch LinkedIn for me?
I'm watching LinkedIn.
You're the fucking best. All right,
What's
this is
up,
Ron's
Ron?
favorite part, you guys. It's favorite part. Yes, Ron.
Ron,
don't
you
have to
better do
dance,
it.
but you can drink if you don't want to dance.
Come on, Doug, just hold your drink up.
Welcome to Mad Games, Madtropolis. Got a good lineup for you guys today. And I just want everyone to know, those of you who follow me are used to the 12:07. Actually, this is an early start for me. Usually it's like 12:15 because technology doesn't like me.
True.
So we have today, you guys all know, those of you who are following you, for me, we have David Bell from Lean Tech. David, welcome to the party.
Good to be here.
We've got Ron, aka the Godfather, the Freight Godfather.
Yeah.
Welcome, Ron. And we have Doug Wagner, everyone's favorite CEO.
Hello.
What's up, Doug?
Which, okay, Doug, I didn't think it was that big of a deal that you're, to be honest. I worked with you for 2 years. The shine wore off, Doug. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal that you were showing up until my LinkedIn account and my phone and my emails started lighting up. You were like, Doug, oh my God, that's my CEO. And I'm like, you don't even work for Echo. What are you talking about? So you are a very popular man, Doug.
Very.
Alternative.
That's true. But, you know, there are some unpopular CEOs in this country with logistics companies that seem to be making quite a bit of money.
Say no names, it rhymes.
Say no names. We say no names. Okay, so before we get started, David, I'm going to start with you. Then we're going to go to Ron. Then we're going to go to Doug. Could you guys just give us a quick introduction for those of you who have had that head in the sand and they don't know who you guys are?
1 second before the quick introductions, because
Yes,
I don't see a live link yet on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
There's again. Probably LinkedIn kicked me off.
Because here's the thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on 1 second.
People are all excited, and then we got to introduce them again. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, we got to keep Ron as calm as possible. We do not need him getting frustrated.
He does. He starts throwing shit around too. We're trying again on LinkedIn, you guys. I swear on my life, it actually isn't me. I'm just pushing buttons. It's probably Zoom. Oh. The sad thing is that I imagined that this would happen to us last night.
You did. Premonition.
Well, honestly, I had like nightmares last night that we wouldn't get on.
Oh,
And
goodness.
how we doing, guys? I'm sorry. Keep
All right.
drinking
Yeah.
your
It
Says,
is
says you're
More
live
than fine.
on
I
LinkedIn.
still are used to it.
Says you're live on LinkedIn.
On
That's what I was
LinkedIn.
just going to go look at. All right.
Hi, LinkedIn followers. You're used
Okay, I
to me
see.
fucking this all up.
And somebody, it's working.
Good live
It is?
on LinkedIn.
Okay, you guys, all of you on LinkedIn, I swear my life is not me. I pushed the button and we did the dance. And you guys just missed Doug. He got up on that desk behind him and did a dance. You missed it all. So David, for those of you who do not know you, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, good to be here. David Bell with CEO of Lean Tech, one of the co-founders of Lean Staffing Solutions. We're pioneers of nearshoring and transportation logistics and tech for transportation logistics companies.
And for those of you who do not know, David used to run a very successful trucking company. He sold it. So he knows a lot of shit about that. And we're going to talk about that today. And David also has been my friend and believed in me when no one else did. Thank you, David.
Yep. Nope, it was good. It's good to be here with Doug too. We used to do a lot of business with Doug. We were a partial carrier for you guys. Echo.
Wow.
Yep.
Ron is famous among Madtropolis followers. He has been named, he does not like it. He's been named Freight Godfather. Sorry, Ron. And then also Ron, he altered the bottom of his screen so I couldn't change his name. Everyone's used to it saying just Freight Godfather because I changed it and he altered it so I couldn't do it anymore. So go ahead, Ron, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. I'm going to apologize if there's any background noise, but I'm Ron. I'm actually doing supply chain consulting right now, focusing on supply chain efficiency within manufacturing entities and procurement, which includes freight.
Love it. And Ron and I worked together back in the days when I used to work at Echo. He's another person that believed in me when no one else did. Doug, your turn. Who are you, Doug? Who is this strange face to Madtropolis?
Doug Wagner, Chairman and CEO of Echo Global Logistics, whatever we're called. Echo Global Logistics, there it is. And I'm happy to be on the Joe Rogan of freight.
Didn't know to be the smartest. So here's the thing that you guys don't know. I used to work for Doug. He was stuck with me for about 2 years. And Doug, what happened when I left Echo is I got worse. I got crazier. So for those CEOs all my CEOs, Ron, David, and Doug, who are on this show, I want to remind you that before we get into this show, it's a little bit different than anything you've been part of. You guys already know that. Don't but I want to remind you guys are already successful. So David, you have a boat, a big one, and you have a theater sign behind you, which means you have an in-house theater. So you're already successful. You ain't got nothing to lose. Ron, we all know you have fuck off money. Everybody knows that. And Doug, we all know what your income is because your 10Ks that are always filed. We just go online. We see what Doug has made recently. So on that note, let's do a little thing. Okay? It's called a game.
Ooh, official card.
My card.
Just to surprise you.
Matt Gaines asks the tough questions. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call a game called Never Have I Ever. Is this educational? Probably not. It's probably not educational. I saw Doug just poured himself more of a drink in the background. Okay, so I'm going to go around the circle, and I'm going to ask you guys some very tough questions. And I don't want you to lie. So it's called Never Have I Ever. And your response is going to be, I have never. Or your response is going to be, I have. And here's the thing. You can't lie because I have worked for trucking companies forever and logistics companies and shippers. So I'm a lie detector. So I'll see right through it, David. So David, we're going to start with you.
I'm having internet trouble. Could wait?
No.
Hey, wait. Can you hear me?
Nope.
Can you hear me?
Nope.
Go into
So-
the tunnel.
Actually, you know what? To be fair, everybody will have to say I have or I've never. They'll have to go right around the corner, you guys. We'll start with David. David, never have I ever been kicked out of a bar.
Never been kicked out of a bar.
You've never been kicked out of a bar?
Nope.
That's bullshit.
Good
Jay
job.
Butter, have you been
Yeah.
kicked out of a bar?
Yes, I have.
JD?
No.
Doug?
No, but I used to be a bouncer, so I kicked people out of the bar.
Nice.
Him to have a cool answer.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Ron, please tell me you have.
Not only have I, it's a great story because I got into a fight with a guy in a wheelchair.
Okay, wait. Turning the music down.
No, next one. Next one.
No.
But that
You
is the
cannot-
truth. Oh, it's true.
Oh boy.
Ron,
Absolutely
you
true.
cannot say something like that and then just go on to the next question.
True. Next question. You just asked. Have
Okay,
I?
you're right. You're
No,
right.
we don't have to elaborate.
Okay, you're
But
right. Just so you know, everyone's gonna want. Okay, good. Okay, next one. Okay, next one. David. David,
Don't be a
have you ever signed a contract and been like, fuck it, I'm not even gonna read this thing. I'm gonna sign it.
Ooh.
I have definitely signed contracts without reading them.
Jay Butter, what's your answer?
Yeah, I was a sales rep for a long time, so of course.
JD, what's your answer?
I've always been meticulous. That's a no.
Mm-hmm. Doug Wagner.
Yeah, I've signed them without reading them because that's why God created attorneys.
Yep, correct.
And see how smooth he is every time. He's so smooth. We've got to drink more, Doug, because we need to get the smoothness
If
out
you
of
don't
you.
read it, you can't be held accountable for it either, right? If you didn't read it.
That's exactly that's what, in Mad Trapolis, nothing leaves Mad
Like, I
Trapolis.
didn't
Why
read
he's
it, so
that way.
it's not valid.
Ron, what is your answer to this
Oh,
question?
hell no. I read everything.
Yeah, that's I knew
I
it.
knew that. I knew
There's as many dumb attorneys as there are anybody else.
And
That's-
I,
and you
by the way, I know Ron reads everything.
I want you guys to know that I encourage you not to read your contracts because then I always have a job. So if you don't want to read them, that's okay. Don't.
Ron, TJ
So-
in the comments says he remembers that fight. You called the guy spokes and he swung first.
Ron, you called a guy in a wheelchair spokes?
That's a good nickname. It's better than Stumpy.
Oh,
Okay. This is amazing. This is way better than I thought it would be. Okay. David, are you ready?
Me again?
Yes, David.
Oh my God.
David, you're the first one. It's like duck, duck, duck.
Yeah, I
goose.
see that.
Yeah, it gives. You know what the problem is? It gives Doug time to come up with a smooth ass answer. You're right.
He's
Doug,
gonna
you're
have to-
first.
He's seasoned.
Doug's first now. Okay, Doug, and you can't think too long because now I see Doug's been thinking of smoothness. All right, so Doug. Oh,
You can't
That's
be mad
typical.
at Doug because he can sell ice to an Eskimo. You can't be mad at that.
no, he
because
can't be smooth on this show. You have to be messed up like the rest of us. Okay,
You can't be upset.
you can't be rich and smooth. That's bullshit. Okay, so Doug, never have I ever been to a topless beach.
I went to school in San Diego, right by Black's Beach, so I couldn't help it.
Oh, I live in San Diego. I don't go to Black's Beach.
But I was paragliding off the cliff.
Aerial view. Okay, Ron, your turn.
Oh, no.
What, Ron?
No.
Oh, cool, California.
No. Hey, nobody wants to see this. I don't need to see anybody else's.
Okay, David Bell
I have never been to a topless beach.
just fucking lied.
No, I don't.
100% you just lied. I'm totally going to text Hunter right now and ask him
You know,
about
I
the
had kids
truth.
when I was 23 and I worked 80 hours a week. When I
Oh, God.
See,
You just turned into Doug. I
That's
gave you
work
too much
ethic right
time.
there,
Would I
baby.
go to a topless beach? Yeah, I would go. I just never had the opportunity.
Okay, Butter?
It's like
I never.
No, Doug, when you flew over, you were naked too. That's what we're all thinking. So there's no
That's what
correcting
I
the
was
record.
thinking.
That's not a ripcord.
A rip stick.
Oh my goodness.
Y'all are fucked up. Okay, JD. What's your answer, JD? And I already know the answer, so don't lie to
Of
me.
course not. It's of course
You're
not.
full of it.
I'm
Next.
so serious. I'm from Louisiana. We don't have beaches. They're bayous.
You're full of
We
it.
go skinny dipping in bayous. It's called alligators. Like
Mhm.
that's
And
not what we're
crawdads.
trying to be.
Mhm. All right, so you don't get too comfortable. The games are not over with, but now I need to teach my Mad Travelers people because Doug. So David and Ron already know this, Doug, and you probably do too. But I'm just going to pretend you didn't. The industry's kind of on fire a little bit. Carriers are really freaking pissed about rates. Brokers are working their asses off and they're kind of getting beaten up as well in different directions. Some people are really scared of losing their jobs. Everybody's sick of being at home. People are going through divorces. So we all are kind of wondering, Doug, what do you see the future looking like for the industry when things kind of calm down with COVID? From any perspective, what is your imagination showing you? Like, are you going to have all the employees come back to work? Are you going to do rotating desks? Do you see carriers looking different now? Like, what are your thoughts in that world of yours?
Sure. Well, I'll start with kind of the economy and the marketplace. We saw a surge in demand in the end of March with all of the products that we're trying to get on the store shelves. And it's amazing how that little surge created tight capacity. And then it's also amazing how quickly we went to a loose market condition in the first 2 weeks of April when the demand fell off. So the distance between a loose market and a tight market is not all that far. That's the first thing. We really, we talk about cyclicality in this industry all the time in terms of the supply and demand for capacity. And normally those cycles take, 18 months. We literally saw the entire cycle in 30 days.
Unreal.
So it's an unusual time. I do think it's getting better, as if you look back to the first 2 weeks of April, there were a lot of businesses that were closed. And as states start to reopen, some of those businesses are opening up and they may not be full of orders, but they're shipping something and something's better than nothing. And so our hypothesis has been that it's going to gradually, slowly get better. And I think we're seeing that. And I think that will continue to extend into the summer months. Summer is normally a seasonal pickup for the industry. And so I'm optimistic that we're going to see a slow recovery. I don't see it being a V-shaped recovery, but we also know there's a lot of capacity that's come out of the system. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day that owns a trucking company. And, if you go back to 2017, he had 6 trucks. And in 2018, when the market got hot, I asked him one day, I said, how many trucks do you have now? And he said, I've got 11, and a couple months later, he said, I have 12, and then I asked him I guess it was probably March or April timeframe. I said, how many do you have now? And he says, I have 21. And then I saw him last week and he said, I have half of them parked. And I said, why are they parked? And he said, well, the rates are too low and I can't find loads. So, I think there's a lot of capacity sitting on the sidelines right now. So I think we're going to be in these softer market conditions for some period of time, but it won't take much to tighten the market back up again. It could be a spike in demand, which we saw in March. It could be some exogenous event like, bad weather or something like that. Maybe, shipping vaccines all around the country, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it'll be a V-shaped recovery. I think it'll be a U-shaped recovery. And there might even be another leg down if there's another wave of infections.
Why are you saying no V-shape? Like what you're saying no V-shape or U-shape, meaning it's a slow progression. When I think of the demand that's going to come out of people coming back into society, which is, slowly opening up states again, people are going to restaurants are now going to start doing big orders again, production companies are going to start ramping back up. Typically you would see that be a V, but you're still saying a U. Why that U instead of the actual V when typically you think it's going to be an instant demand?
Well, first of all, I hope you're right. Secondly, if we look at our clients right now, the level of business they're doing varies dramatically by industry. If you're in automotive, there's nothing going on. If you're in apparel, there's nothing going on. If you're in food and beverage, it's booming. And so I think to get firing back on all cylinders and have a V-shaped recovery, you need all industries, responding, in the positive nature. And I think further about how's behavior going to change. I think when restaurants open up, there's going to be a lot of people that don't want to go to a restaurant. There's going to be a lot of people that don't want to go to sporting events. And so now you've got this whole multiplier effect of all those people that aren't spending money, which is getting, multiplied as a salary to a service worker and then, a payment to somebody else. There's just going to be a permanent economic drag, not permanent, but a long-term economic drag because the economy is not firing on all cylinders.
So instead of a V, would you be willing to say that, let's say there are more COVID increases, could it be a W? Are we going to see that bullwhip effect where we know there's going to be that supply chain and demand constringencies back or towards the future? Could you say a W then instead of a U?
Yeah, I'll say it like this. I want a V. I think it's a U, but it could be a W.
Makes sense.
And if we see a lot of, surge in infections after we open things up and we have to shut things back down again, that's going to create a W.
True.
Ron, what are your thoughts about all this?
No, I agree with Doug a lot. I've spent a lot of the last couple of months in factories. The demand's not there. And even for industries, I'm working with a liquor company here in Southern California. The demand is increased, but it's not increased in relation to the amount of people consuming because there's different things going on. If you're selling Costco vodka, bars waste more vodka than your home consumer does, which means intuitively you're selling less bottles of it. So even though the demand has gone up because more people are consuming adult beverages at home, they're a lot more careful what they've got. And that's where I hear the W, the U. I personally think it's going to be more of a kind of an ugly check mark where we're going to see a little bit of a spike. I think states are going to have a really tough time shutting this thing down again. There's too many people that are complaining about being shut down. I don't think they're going to be willing to do what we all did 2 months ago. But I think consumer behavior is going to drive it to where, my wife works in the restaurant industry and they're talking about opening them back up. Every table's got to be 6 feet apart. All the restaurant workers have got to come out with masks and gloves. I mean, frankly, for most of us, that's going to look weird. I'm not going to take my wife out for a nice night dinner, and I've got a nurse serving me food.
Ron, I saw an article where someone said that the restaurant had mannequins and every other.
Yeah, they're trying to make it look full. It's not ridiculous. I mean, especially, Jamin can speak to it here in Southern California. I mean, hell, your mayor just talked not till the end of June at the earliest. We've started to open up, but even with all the panic about opening up, nobody's still doing anything. And, when I go to the factories, it's a different world. Folks are working 6 feet apart, which makes things less efficient, but people are afraid. It's not even, the leaders of those factories. It's the employees that you've got to consider. And even, so I call them temps, I can do this. It's not that simple. People are, I don't want to say afraid, but I do think there's a hell of a lot of caution. And that caution is driving behavior. And that behavior is going to have an impact on the supply chain, whether we want it to or not. And that's where, JD, you asked about the V. I agree with Doug completely. I don't see how a V's even remotely possible, because we're not going to just shut our eyes and pretend that it's all back to normal. It's just not possible.
David, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with everything they're saying. I think in transportation, the market corrects itself very quickly. And I think when you take a combination of opening back up and getting freight moving with the combination of carriers going out of business and brokers going out of business, I think it's really tricky to really, to predict exactly what's going to happen. I agree. It's definitely going to be a slow startup, as everybody is talking 2 to 3 months to get going. Once retail opens up, are people actually going to go, into stores? I think malls will, be busy because people won't want to get out and move around, but restaurants, I think, are going to be tough. And then if you go, I actually don't mind. I had lunch this week in a restaurant. It wasn't crowded. I got right in. It was easy. There wasn't people sitting on top of me. So I actually didn't mind. And I'm actually willing to pay a little more for it to be a little bit less crowded. So maybe restaurants compensate with the people that really want to do it are willing to pay more and go do it. And the ones that don't. But I think the restaurant, the retail industry, and the entertainment industry, and sports events and stuff are going to get hit the hardest. And I see a long, drawn out recovery, to whereas other stuff might come back quicker. So it's
David, if you were still running your trucking company, what would you do, or actually, what would you tell other trucking companies to do to survive right now? Because we all know about the rates.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think, there's always this battle about the rates and who's the bad guy in the rates, but the shippers dictate what they're willing to pay. And if they find somebody, they'll do it. They do it. And it's, free enterprise. So I'm never really a big, I never really get involved in the debate about, is it too cheap? Is it not? And if somebody's willing to do it, then you can't be the bad guy for having them do it. And somebody's willing to pay it, it is what it is. But if I was a trucking company, I think you got to really, really look at your expenses and have good finance team that, the problem with trucking is it's historically, it's a very unsophisticated industry. And, guys go out, they drive trucks and they jump in the office because they want to better themselves and create a business. And I think really everybody that doesn't have a sophisticated accounting team now that can give them projections and cash flow statements and understand what industries their customer base is in and where their risk is. I think with the absence of good risk analysis and good finance team to guide you, that's the roadmap to where you're going. I think you struggle, and it's not just all about moving a truck. And so stuff's expensive, right? You can't just go spend money on a CFO and a risk manager, and so it's really it's a tough industry for trucking to be successful, in my opinion.
So, Doug, I'm going to ask you a really hard question, and I ask in advance for you not to get mad at me. By the way, Doug, I lied to you about everything about this show. Remember when I told you come onto the show and just say hi and answer 2 questions and leave?
Said, 2 questions, you leave when you need to. And
wow.
You knew that wasn't true. You knew that.
He knows. He's going to make a lawyer joke about how he's not surprised that I lie. I lied to him for 2 years. He's going to go on and on. So, Doug, this is not from anyone from your company, but I had people on social media reach out to me and they're like, I work for brokers currently and I'm in the desk. I'm on carrier sales, and my leader is telling me, you can't hire the carrier that you used to work with. You need to hire some of these carriers on DAT that are moving 80 cents a mile. We have a business to run. Do it right now. And I have people messaging me saying, what am I supposed to do? Yeah. I feel like my integrity is being attacked. I feel like a piece of shit because I can't hire that carrier who's been taking care of me all year. I can't, I'm just feel like crap right now. And I'm scared to tell my leader. Doug, this isn't happening at your company. I would call you out if it was, because I'm horrible like that. But it's like other companies. What if you had a broker come up to you and say that and be like, Doug, what do I do? what would your advice be?
To the employee?
Yeah.
Well, let me step back and just maybe look at it a little bit philosophical. There's all this talk about technology constantly, and we spend a lot of money on technology too. And I think, if you're a serious player in this industry, you have to have technology, but relationships still matter. And, we have two main groups of employees at Echo. Client sales, they call on shippers, and we have carrier sales. They call on carriers. And we have a title for certain carriers. We call them relationship carriers. And it's carriers that we talk to every day. They tell us where their empty trucks are. We tell them where their loads are. Maybe we do that electronically because they're technologically enabled. Maybe we do it via email. Maybe we do it over the phone. But it's truly a situation where we scratch their back and they scratch ours. And they don't always have the lowest rates. But we try to keep them fed, just like they try to give us capacity when the rates are spiking and we're getting squeezed in a contract. So
there's a give and take is what I just heard right there in a relationship where you give
That's the reason why Echo's been doing well for a long time.
That's important, Doug, because what you're doing is in the city of Metropolis, we realize that a lot of people have not been exposed to what a relationship actually looks like, especially between like a Ron and a you, and how there's a give and there's a take. And hey, man, I understand where you are right now, but because of our relationship, I want to make sure you're taken care of as best as I can. You just said something monumental right there, because that we haven't heard of that just yet. We've heard Ron say this is what they should do, but you came on with the perspective, here's what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, it's a difference of, that's probably an obvious, especially to people on this panel, but relationships so much a buzzword. Like, how do we not just worry, execute on the business today, but worry about the long tail being profitable? And so that's a great point, Doug.
Yeah. And I challenge those out there who understand my question and who have messaged me, and they're feeling that, and they wish that they worked for somebody who articulated what Doug just said. I challenge you to find a new job. That's Matt Gaines' way. Ron, your turn to be on the hot seat.
Uh-oh.
I lied to you, Ron. Remember when I said that you just come on, you pop in, just say hi to Doug and pop out?
You never said that.
You never said that. You don't believe it. Ron, I lied to Ron a long time ago, and he's still been stuck on the show 1 month later. And now he's got another show next week he has to perform.
No, you lied a long time ago, but you told the truth a real long time ago, which is why Echo still does a huge business with Monster.
Thank you, Ron. Still not going to dodge the hot seat.
Okay.
So, Ron, I get messages from the same exact messages, but from a shipper perspective, where they're saying, I spent so much time building this vendor network, and now I've got leadership telling me to slash transportation costs.
Yeah.
And they come to me, or they come to you. Maybe they've already come to you and been like, Freight Godfather, what do I do? What's your advice? Or do I just have to keep my job and do what I'm doing and hope these carriers will forgive me later?
I think, quite frankly, there's a difference between what your strategy is as a shipper. If you're trying to just take advantage of the market and slash your cost, unfortunately, you're stuck. You're going to go on the spot rate and just beat people up. Doug briefly referenced, it's going to come back. So if you want to play the low rates, you're going to pay the high rates. And I think we all know shippers and shippers companies that's their strategy. So if you're one of those employees that's being told to do that, unless you've got the position or the P&L control to affect that strategy, that's what you're going to end up doing. And that's just an unfortunate part, but that's where, I'm steadfast in the belief that this industry, that's part of the biggest problem between the shipper, the broker, and the carrier, that there's too big of swings that don't make sense from what the overall market's doing. And I'm not talking the freight market, I'm talking the North American market for everything that's moving. The swings are far outside of it. But if you have the control and you have the P&L and you have the position, then you can start to look at, like, is this a strategy that I want to continue with? And does it meet my customers' needs? Does it meet my company's needs? You know, am I better suited paying that carrier from Denver, you know, in the high times and the low times, a fair and equitable rate to make sure I ensure the service and I take care of everything across the supply chain? But that's for each company to decide their strategy. I had a very specific strategy that worked for me, but I'm not going to say that that's the best strategy. It's just one that worked for me and the partners that I happen to have.
Makes sense.
Cassandra,
Yeah, Doug, hi.
I never answered the other part of the question, and I think it's important.
I was afraid you were dodging it, and I didn't want to put you on the too much hot seat because you're already probably never going to come back.
So, for that,
I thought it was a dodge, like a politician's dodge.
So for that rep that's being pressured to maximize margin, first of all, I presume they're on a commission plan. So to the extent that they pay more for the truck than they could, you know, maybe it's reducing the company's margins, but it's also reducing their own commission. So if that's a decision that they feel strongly about, that they need to take care of a partner that they have a relationship with, who's helped them out in the past and bailed them out of a bind when they're in a tight market, I think they need to stand up to their boss and say, look, you know, I need to take care of this company because I want them to be there in the future when we need them. And that's a reasonable request. And if their boss isn't okay with that, then I agree with your point. They should find another job.
Well said. Damn, I thought he was dodging that. How are my comments looking? Are there any burning questions before I go on to David and put David on the hot seat?
No, that was one of them. People wanted to hear if Doug had the follow-up. So that was awesome, Doug.
I knew people would give me heat for not pushing his answer to the second question too. So that's good. I just wanted to make sure you guys just chime in if there are burning questions. But we're going to go on to David. David,
you have a carrier and client relationship. With Echo and I, we had a relationship for many, many, many years. And I could tell you from firsthand experience, you know, when you're moving partials and you're moving difficult stuff, it's easy to have a great relationship because you need the carrier and you need the broker to work together, and they want to have a lease. They got 6 pallets out of Florida to New York. They want to just give it to the guy that's going to do the best job and not worry about it with a fair price for everybody. So I think there's different types of freight. If you're hauling, you know, canned goods or water that they have 10,000 loads and you literally have tiny, tiny margins in it, it's a different part of your business. And if you're a good broker, you have a diversified portfolio of business, you have to beat that up. So there's a lot of times where you get somebody to do a water load for nothing and you make it up to them on a partial. And if you're able to build those relationships where the carrier trusts that you're going to take care of them, and it's not just bullshit that, I'm going to get you on the next load and you never do, then, you know, I think that comes into play on what you're moving. But, you know, for sure, Echo was definitely, you know, the experience of what they want to do well and they want to keep their customers happy with good service. You got to keep your providers doing a great job because they're just an extension of you when they pick up your freight. So at the end of the day, you know, it's about that. And I think that's the key, and understanding that you're never going to get rid of the cheap freight and the carriers that take it, because there's always going to be a need. And I think it's, you know, it just goes back to understanding the business you have and teaching the people that are doing it when they come in, like that legacy knowledge of how to build that relationship and get more value out of it. It's an investment. When you give a carrier a little more money on something, you're investing into them. And if that carrier doesn't care about it and they take it and run and never get back, then it's never going to be a good relationship anyway. And over time, you have your really good relationships with 80% of your carriers, the old 80-20 rule, and you have the ones that are just 20%. You're going to use them when you need them, and you're going to not give them the freight when you don't have to.
Yeah.
That's
one time, Ron.
But David, how do you, and I want Doug to answer this too, because we've heard Ron's position, but David, Doug, how do you build relationships? Like when it comes between broker shipper carrier, whoever that relationship is, what should people out there for you relationships?
Oh, you're cutting out, Gov.
Industry?
What was that question, Gov?
So basically, I want to know how have you all built relationships in this industry thus far? You know, you've gotten to this point. People have been asking us, and we're telling them it's all about relationships. Ron gave them what he believes about setting up relationships. What do you two believe is the best way to keep relationships, maintain them?
Or what are you coaching your teams on how to do that?
Yeah.
You want to jump in and go first, Doug? You want me to spit it out real quick?
Go ahead.
So you build a relationship by helping people. Like if I was a carrier and I had a truck in a bad area that's sitting there and I needed help, and I called up my guy at any of the great brokers we worked with and said, "Hey man, I really need your help. This truck's stuck there. Anything you could do." When he helps me, if you're a good person and you have a good soul, you're going to want to help back. You're not going to forget those little things. So when somebody needs help and says, "Hey, I have this customer and we got to move this stuff and I have no margin in it. I got a family to feed. I need to make something. Can you help me out?" You build by giving a good faith. And it's just like normal human practice, right? You go out in the world and you give. Not everybody gives back. They take and they run and they screw you over. But time you build relationships and they come to fruition to where you have them. And then you look back and you have relationships. But it's like do for people and give. And when you get back, that's the potential relationship that's right in front of you that you build on. A relationship is something you build on. You don't build it, you build on it.
So it's not buying you something, David. Like it's not me going out and buying you a tomahawk meal with, some truffle butter oil and.
Yeah, that goes way back to the old school days where it's always done. It's probably still done these days, but it's too transparent now. Rates are too easily accessible. There's too many competitors. You go back to in the early 90s, like there was 2 competitors. Now there's 2,000. It's like a whole different world.
Yeah.
You're not buying anybody's business in this day and age, in my opinion.
Yeah. Doug, there's been an ongoing discussion about rate transparency. That's been really hot. And even people put me on the seat about that. Have you heard about that little argument lately where carriers want and to push brokers to be transparent with their rates? Have you heard about that?
I saw the video.
What were your
think
thoughts
about that, man?
I'd rather answer the question about how do you build relationships.
Oh yes, I forgot about that. Sorry, go ahead. Go.
That was a political dodge.
That was very fucking good.
I'll do both. No, I agree with everything that was said. You build relationships the most when you're solving problems. And not only in my job today at Echo, but once upon a time, I was at YRC and I was vice president of customer service. And we centralized the customer service function from 640 freight terminals into 2 highly automated call centers. We did a lot of training. We used technology, and we believed that we improved the level of service and the quality of service. And about 6 months later, as the VP of customer service, I would get letters from customers, and I called them bad boy letters or attaboy letters, and they went in 2 different folders. And after about 6 months, I opened my files and I pulled out those 2 folders, and my bad boy folder was about 1/3 of an inch thick with people complaining about bad service or a problem. But my attaboy folder was 1.5 inches thick. And so I was reading the letters, and these are people that paused from what they were doing in their job and took the time to write a personal letter. Mm-hmm. And it was always about Cassandra did such a, we usually start out with your company sucks. However, Cassandra really stepped up to the plate. She took care of the problem. She fixed it. She went the extra mile. And for that, I love Cassandra and I love your company, and I'm going to do business with you for a long time. And that same concept applies between a broker and a carrier dispatcher. It applies between, a broker and a shipper. And it's solving problems, it's helping each other, and it's everything that was said previously that creates those relationships and that loyalty.
That was really smooth, you guys.
Yeah.
Gave him too long to think about it.
And Ron, what would your perspective be on that? Because sometimes when people are asking this question, I think we've talked about this before, how do you start relationships? They're almost low key asking, what's the silver bullet to do it in one call? But what I'm hearing is time, trust. This is a long tail game.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Jamin. And I've had 4 calls this week from people from this about, and 2 of them asked what's the silver bullet.
They got to start paying you, Ron.
But what's
it costs money.
When I started working at Monster in 2012, Echo was doing about 10 loads a week. And Doug, I'm going to apologize because it's going to blow up some folks now. It's about a $40 million business right now. And I can tell you the one thing that changed it, there were problems, and I'm going to say some names. Echo fucked up a load. No 2 ways about it. They absolutely screwed it up. Joe Larson told Stacy Kruger and Brian Godlett to get on a damn plane and sit at my front door and talk to me. And I pulled up, I saw them sitting on the steps, and I drove around the building because I didn't want to talk to them because I was pissed.
Brian's on the call, by the way. Brian's on.
Well, that's good. So God will appreciate this. They sat there for hours and basically texted me, said, we're not going anywhere until we can talk to you. And they were small at the time. They were small. They weren't a big carrier, but they stuck around and they said, look, we talked to Joe and we think it's important for you to understand. We know we blew it. It'll never happen again. They grew to be the biggest carrier in Monster's portfolio by far, to the point to where they took over all of our quote unquote hard business. So if we had a hot load, if we had something going crazy anywhere, the talk inside of this business was called Stacy. Stacy will cover it, period. And I know that Doug and his team were the ones that were making sure that as a customer, we were taken care of. But this wasn't we were willing to throw money at it. It wasn't battle over rates. It was these individuals from two different branches made sure that this customer relationship, albeit being small, they recognized it could be something that was big to them and they were going to focus on growing it. And they did. And they did a fantastic job. You're bringing Brian on?
You know it.
Yeah.
I don't know why you guys ever think that this is going to be a normal one. Hi, Brian. Poor Brian. He's probably busy.
Teach us, Brian.
Like, what the hell?
Oh,
Brian's
yeah.
also used to me. I wish Stacy was on. I checked to see if she was on as well. And Ron, Doug sent a lawyer to your office too.
Yeah, because you guys screwed up. And now I'm going to
But
tell
he still sent a lawyer there.
Yeah.
Not in the way that everybody would think.
No, and Brian can absolutely attest because he sat on the call with I think he was your head of risk and compliance, telling me that I needed to put together a whole bunch of paperwork to file my claim for about $500,000 and told him to fuck off. Godla and Stacy got off the call with, we're in trouble, called you, and suddenly I think Evan actually came to the meeting with a check. I don't know what to do with a $500 million.
Solutions, left and right, there's solutions. Hi, Brian.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Teach us, Brian.
Teach us, Brian. Brian, when people ask you how you build a relationship with a customer, is Ron right? You solve the problems? Is tenacity part of it too?
Yeah, I think all the above. I think everybody, the last couple of answers were spot on. I mean, it's just building building relationships, solving problems, and, getting in front of your customers. I mean, that was an unpleasant trip, but, I think we were better able to solve the issue being in front of the customer and right there in person rather than on the phone or email.
How did you get Ron? Did you say Ron didn't even let you up the stairs when you tried to get a hold of him?
Yeah, and he went in the back entrance too to avoid us.
That's awesome.
Tenacity. Now, what do you think about Doug as a CEO?
Wow, that's not loaded.
You
Brian trying to get a bonus.
Cassandra.
Great CEO.
Awesome CEO.
You got a future.
Thank you, Brian. Poor guy.
Thanks, Brian. That's awesome.
Poor guy. All right, so let's bounce from a couple. How are we doing in the comments, by the way? Because I did promise Doug that I would the 2 questions, but we're not done with the 2 questions.
We got
Everyone-
people that are wanting to learn, like, specific to our industry, what's going to happen in our industry for brokers and carriers. What's that going to look like post-COVID, past what the curve you believe it is? But we have a lot of questions for, are people going to return back to office spaces? Are we done?
Yeah, a
with
lot of office questions I'm seeing.
No, Ron's shaking his head no. What do you think? What's going on? Oh, he's muted. I didn't mute him, you guys.
Want me to take it?
Yeah, Doug, go for it.
Yeah.
Well, Ron has unplugged his thing.
So we've got about 25 offices around the country, which means we have, multiple states to deal with on their, return policies. And so we're following the CDC guidelines and we're following each state's guidelines. But we've also made a decision. I guess one of the good things that came from this crisis is that we learned and we taught ourselves and proved to ourselves that we can work from home. and we can be effective and we can be productive and we can service our clients and we can service our carriers. And so that's given us the confidence to create flexibility. And we just recently finished polling our employees. And I'll tell you this, people are all over the board with how they feel.
Yep.
There's one group that says, I want to go back to work. When can I go back to work?
Mm-hmm.
And there's another group that's literally afraid for their life. And you cannot dismiss that. And then you've got people that are kind of in the middle. And frankly, there's a lot more people that want to stay home right now than there are to return to work. And I know that the news is popularizing, this sentiment to, let us out of the house and let us go back to work. But I promise you, there's a lot of people that are concerned about that, especially in a business where people sit in cubicles close together.
Yes.
So for Echo, we made the decision that we're going to open the offices. When the government says we can open offices, we're going to open the offices. But we're not going to mandate that people have to go back to work because we know they can work from home. And so we're telling people until January of 2021, you don't have to come back to work. And if you want to come back to work, the doors will be open as long as it's approved by the state. But we have practices. We have a 35-page return to work playbook, we call it. So we're going to follow our playbook, but we're not going to force anybody to come back to the office if they don't feel comfortable doing that.
That's leadership in my eyes. David, you probably have a very unique perspective on this side of things. What are you seeing and hearing?
Yeah, so we have approximately 1,500 employees in multiple cities in Colombia, and we transition them all to work home. It's working very well. The problem is you really can't bring people back, because if you bring them back and one person happens to be infected and comes back to the office, like you're right back to square one again.
I don't know why anybody doesn't realize that.
So
well,
it's
not anybody, but
rush back and get back. It's a matter of practicality and what's right and what's best to keep business flowing. So we're working well from home. So what we're going to do is we're going to slowly transition people back, but not fast. Do it slow and in certain groups. And that way, if we have one customer that brings 10 people back and has 30 people continue working from home, we can kind of rotate. And I think that's going to be a 6-month process. I agree with Doug, like 2021, and we'll reevaluate if they're getting the job done and their KPIs are being met and they're productive and they're not and they're happy, their mental state is fine. And you're going to create anxiety pushing them back. Like, what good is an employee at your office with super anxiety that all they do is get on the internet and Google if I'm going to get sick? And you wanted the productivity. So if you can manage the productivity and monitor the KPIs and the workload and they're getting it done, like, what real difference does it make? And you just don't want to infect everybody. And then you have
I agree.
That's real.
What were you thinking, Ron?
No, I've actually got a question. Doug, first, I applaud the fact that you're doing that for your folks in Chicago.
Yeah.
I can't help but think specifically, if you're asking folks or telling folks they don't have to come back, there's a lot of ancillary businesses that rely on that office building. So it's the restaurants downstairs, it's the bars downstairs, that with a small percentage, and then at some point, if only 30% comes back, there's going to be a compression. I don't need 3 floors, I need 1. And quite frankly, the one thing I think about, especially with Echo, but it's a lot of buildings I've been to, folks have to get into elevators together. So forget the 6 feet, in the office. I'm thinking about the go through the gates and the swipe with the little card and wait for your D to get called and everybody jumps on the elevator. I just can't help but think offices, I think there's a big underestimation of the amount of office space that's going to get unutilized because it's going to have to happen because so many jobs can get done remotely. Why? Forget the health risk, just economically. Why do I pay for 90,000 square feet of office space when I can pay for 10? And the 10 works for the folks that need to work it for, but now I've got 80,000 free. What do I do with it? And all of the ancillary economic impact it has on restaurants, bars, bus stops, all the other stuff, that it makes it more and more challenging that I think a lot of folks just aren't talking about yet. And I get it, it's early, but it's something, especially here in Southern California.
I don't think it's too early to talk about
real
that.
Immediate impact.
I don't think you're too early to talk about that. I think that makes sense because when you're looking at companies that have their own dispatch centers, or you're looking at companies that have their own departments that are massive, 9 times out of 10, it's not offices everywhere. It's pod next to pod next to pod. Like you said, one sneeze, one cough right now outside, you have people looking at you like you have the bubonic plague, let alone you're sitting right next to them in a cube. So,
or in the elevator.
or the elevator. I think you're spot on about that. Like, people aren't comfortable, and that's where I see the you and sometimes that little jagged check that you're talking about, because there's a people have to do that, one, and then two, people right now, the majority are happy staying home because they feel protected. So
Plus how much sick leave you have when they're working from home. They're talking about it in the comments. The only KPI that matters is on-time performance. Like, well, we're finding it with 1,500 people work from home. We have nobody's calling in sick.
Right.
Wow.
They're probably working more hours too.
Yeah.
I can tell you
productivity, and they're working longer, and they're getting the job done. And at the end of the day, not calling in sick. And
working more hours, but probably spending less time working because they're not commuting. You know, I can work a 10-hour day, but not lose 12 hours because I'm not in traffic somewhere.
Especially if you're.
That's a big point for me. I drive an hour and a half to work, an hour and a half home, typically when I'm in the city. So that's 3 hours that I'm sitting in the car, that now, not only am I not having to wake up at 4 a.m. to get on the road at 6 a.m., I'm up and I have more time to give to the company.
And there was a point Sarah Humphreys was walking me through. She was talking to an executive of a large company, and they were just trying to equate the wait time for some of these buildings they have in the major metropolises around the world. Wait time at the elevators, not even the element of getting sick aside in close quarters, but like you're going to have an employee drive an hour and then wait an hour to get into the office or leave. It presents some new logistical issues.
But depending on their lease payment for the month and what that equates to at the end of the year, looking at it from a C-suite level, I mean, I can afford maybe a CSO. I can afford 3 or 4 more positions to add to the company that has need. When you're talking about that, I'm not paying $100,000 a month for a building or whatever your rent or your lease may be. So I mean, it is an interesting question to think about.
Doug, when you started allowing people to work, especially so many people to work from home, how did you keep people motivated? How did you feel like you still had your thumb on the pulse, or your executive team still had their thumb on the pulse?
Well, it's been interesting. I mean, first of all, it's a learning process because we had never tried it before. And I'll just start with me and my staff. I mean, I used to have a weekly staff meeting every Monday at 2:00, and it would last about 2 hours. And then for the rest of the week, you're going to meetings, maybe you're traveling, maybe you stop in somebody's office and have a conversation with them. And since we started working from home, my team meets every day at 9:00 on a Zoom call, or we use Microsoft Teams. And, some days it's a 30-minute meeting and some days it's a 2-hour meeting. But what's fascinating is it's just so much better communication, because my HR person gets to listen to the conversation that happens between me and the CIO. And
That's a good point.
Everybody gets to hear everything every day. So we all feel like we're a lot better informed. We're handling issues in real time. And so I think we've actually had better communication because everybody gets to be part of the dialogue. As for the employees, we use a tool called Workplace. If you're not familiar, it's a great tool. It's actually Facebook. Think of Facebook internally for your company, where the outside world can't see it, but inside you can create groups and conversations and stream videos and have town hall meetings and that sort of thing. And every Friday we have, we call it Beer Friday, just like you, Cassandra. And we invite all of our employees to listen to a talk. It might be me, it might be Dave Menzel, our president and COO.
Love Dave.
It's Kyle Flowers today. And we talk about, what's going on in the company. How are we doing? What's business volumes look like? What's going on in the marketplace? What are the government regulations that are affecting us? What big decisions do we have to make? And we also try to make it fun. Last week, we had, for the entire week, employees had to submit their TikTok dance challenge.
Yes.
And
You
then,
and I want to do that. Did you do one, Doug?
and then we had to,
God,
we
you guys are
judged it,
good.
and we awarded a winner. And this week it's Echo's Got Talent. So we've got everybody submitting videos of, juggling and dancing and playing guitar and all the different things. And so we're going to announce the winner today at 4. So
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yes,
Oh my
that's
God.
great.
in a way, I feel like we're actually closer because we all kind of come together to get information, and we've got pretty good feedback on that.
I think
That's
people have so
true
much
freaking
more
leadership.
time now because you have people with more time, because I was telling folks, guys, 95% of the meetings that I'm invited to that I am obligated to go to could have literally been an email.
You mean 99%, not 95?
Yes, like 99.9%. But the question I have for Doug and David, it kind of comes from a mixture of the comments I'm seeing. You guys are saying the right things. People are loving it. You have the good viewpoint of what they believe the remote work life should be, and you have that leniency. But we know you're friends with CEOs that are 100% polar opposite of you.
I know that for a fact.
Only believe productivity can be great if they are in front of them and there's somebody on top of them screaming, yelling,
What's in the seat?
where are you? What are you? We get why you guys have that. They're loving that. But what are you hearing from some of your friends, your peers that are struggling with the lack of control that they think they have now?
Well, first of all, I'd start by saying that morale is the key to productivity.
Jesus.
I want that on a
Dropping
shirt.
bombs.
I want that shirt.
Yeah, me too.
If you go back into I don't remember if it was the 80s or the 90s, Harvard did a study. They called it the service value chain. And they talked about how to maximize profits for a company. And, traditional wisdom is you keep your costs down or you charge a lot of money. But what they found in their analysis was the companies that have the best profits are the companies that make their employees happy. Because if they have happy employees, they're excited to come to work, and happy, excited employees do a really good job of servicing the customers. And if you do a good job of servicing the customers, they give you a second chance when you screw up. They might even let you charge a little bit more, and they'll come back for repeat business. So I actually think that other style that you mentioned is exactly opposite of how it should be. And I think there's good evidence from a lot of companies out there that proves that.
Good.
Jesus, that's powerful.
I definitely agree. And I think that one testament of a company, if you give an employee a very competing opportunity that exists, so your opportunity is really good, you give them a little skin in the game, so the harder they work, the more they do, the more they get compensated, and you have a good culture, like that's a recipe for success in a company. You can't, I'm not a believer in browbeating employees and kicking them into doing it. There's businesses that do that, and they're a grind shop.
You just do that to your lawyers?
Well, lawyers. But like if you have a company where somebody can't steal your employees, you have a company that's successful. Give me a company where a recruiter can't go in and take them away from you and give them to a competitor or take them, and you have a company that's successful. If you have a company that they can come in and grab your employees and take them and give them a little bit of a better opportunity, then you're doing something wrong. You got to fix it.
David, I want to piggyback on it. David, there's been a couple questions and comments. I want to get your thought on this. It kind of relates to that. So with what we're learning about the power and the abilities of work from home, are you seeing this open up new opportunities for yourself or other executives you talk to? Now, when you look at recruiting talent, you can look beyond just the radius around a given headquarters or office space. Are you seeing that as a win?
I mean, I don't think we've been in it long enough to like capitalize on that. And I just hired somebody yesterday remotely, never met him, interviewed him. He left a competitor, and I liked him. We hit it off good. I enjoyed our conversations, and I hired him and said, hey, and he's working remotely. And I said, listen, we need good people. And right now, if good people are available with talent that are hungry to be a part of a great organization and long-term, then, we're talking to people. So like, I think that's a great point. And and thank you for that. I haven't even given it really thought other than, that it's even more available now, but we're actually a remote for more company. Like we've been promoting, I could tell you how many times 5-6 years ago when we pitched our nearshore product that I heard a majority of the people said, I need my people right here in my office. That won't work. I need them here. I got to see them and touch them and look at them. And it's, we've proven, many years later that you really don't. And now with this, crisis and pandemic, it's like, it has to be proven. If if you're not doing it remotely, then, I think you got to adjust. But great point. There's probably a lot of remote talent. We're a remote ran organization, but we haven't given it much thought down in Columbia about hiring people in other cities. And it's, thank you for the idea. We'll be talking
Doug, how much longer do we have you for? Do we have you for 5 more minutes? I think he just gave me the finger. Did he say fuck you? I think he said fuck you.
Oh, he's muted.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you said,
yes, I'm good.
oh, sweet.
Listen, I think Doug is okay, but I think it is you who's paranoid over this whole thing right now. Doug is chilling.
He is chilling. You're right. Okay. I've designed specific questions. Yes. Yes. There he goes. Every time, you guys. Every time. Matt Gaines asks the tough questions.
These are good.
Mm-hmm. I designed these very targeted and specific for each one of you.
Just
Wonderful
petty.
people.
Just petty.
This is not. It's you guys. It's educational.
It's when you said you designed them specifically for us because I know your ball busting ways. So
Okay. Does everyone hear the scary music? Because I took forever to find the scary music. I didn't want it to be too scary because I didn't want Doug to hang up. Okay.
leave Doug alone.
Dave, you're first, actually. And each question is going to be different because I didn't want anybody getting a head start on things.
I like that. It's fair. Levels the playing field.
David, this game is called Who Would You Rather?
Oh, jeez.
Is this freshman year all over again?
Exactly.
Like, am I
This isn't
pledging?
Yes.
Like, is this...
Well, fine. Screw you. I'm childish. Okay. Actually, this is which you would rather. I just wanted to see JD's face when I said who. All right. So, David, you have these 2 options that I'm going to present you, and you have to pick one, okay? So you are going to be employed as an executive, not the CEO, as an executive, and you get to pick one company. Is it going to be a bottled water company with thousands of claims a month, or a major worldwide retailer that beats the shit out of vendors?
What type of claims?
The water company.
Cargo claims.
Water company.
You're going to pick the water company over the major retailer?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't want to beat vendors up. I have a hard time deciding between 2 vendors when I want something done. I don't want to beat vendors. I got to beat vendors. I want to give them all the business. With water, I can give everybody business.
Oh,
That's true. Okay. All right. Now the question is for Ron. Ron, which would you rather?
Turn up the music.
I did turn it up.
Why does it
I
sound
wanted
like
to
the
raise your blood
X-Files
pressure,
now,
okay?
though? Is this the X-Files? Like, what in the world?
Okay. Which would you rather? Drive a truck as a brand new owner-operator. You've never done it before, Ron. This is brand new to you. You can have that. Or you have to work for a company, and you're going to be a company driver, and it's a major carrier, and they've got inward and outward-facing cameras.
Drive for a big company.
What?
Yep.
I thought you'd say owner-operator for sure.
Nope, because you said new owner operator, and I've never done it. Big company, I can actually rely on the experience of the folks that I'm around. I can talk to leadership, see what they understand, see what's screwed up, what's not screwed up. And then frankly, it doesn't work for me. I can take that experience and then become my own business.
Oh, good answer.
That was okay. That was
Change your
way
face,
too
Cassandra. You know you got to ask.
I know. I'm
Ron
so freaking
questions.
annoyed right now. I really thought I had Ron
Gotta
nailed.
be
I'm like, oh, I
specific.
got this one.
Nope.
And I'm going to rail on him that you don't know anything, Ron. What are you going to do? Drive around, crash into things with your truck? Okay.
Nope. I'm going to rely on the good safety and attorneys that I have with my big company to help
Oh,
me
that's
out.
nice.
You hear that, Doug?
Right,
You
let's
hear how
do
he
it.
talks to me? How nice he plugs attorneys. Mm-mm. Okay. JD and Butta, who's always on the phone. Just kidding. Comments. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, ready? All right.
Why is my heart beating fast? Let me get my wand.
Each one of you have to say it. You can't think about it, okay? Kim Kardashian or Angelina Jolie? Butter. What's your answer?
Kim Kardashian.
JD, go.
I am not a proponent of over sexualizing ladies that are.
Wait, who said
No one said
sex?
anything about sex. No one said anything
I
about
just
sex.
said you'd work for them.
Oh, work. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
God
We're
dang.
good then. Because I was like,
gutter.
Cassandra, you
Don't
just
want to work
took.
for Kanye.
No, I was like, Cassandra
the
took me there. Like,
gutter.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so I would definitely go with Kim K.
It's too much. No, you know what? You're discharged from this question entirely.
Because
There's just so much. All right, now the good one. This is for Doug.
Kanye.
Oh, can you imagine?
No.
All right.
No.
I don't want Doug to hang up, so we're gonna do a little different music. Yeah, that's better. I don't want him to leave, you guys. Okay, so Doug, would you rather? You're stuck in a conference room for 4 hours, Doug. Are you gonna talk to a lawyer and talk about contracts the entire time? Or are you gonna hang out with a carrier who's pissed about your sales rep filing a watchdog report? Sorry, I can barely get that out. Or a freight card report. 4 hours, Doug, of your life and no alcohol.
Oh.
Oh.
What am I going to talk to the lawyer about? What's that conversation?
Contracts. It's all contracts. And the lawyer's going to have a bow tie. No, that's cool. The lawyer's going to be all buttoned up to the top and have a briefcase.
Yeah, I'd rather stab myself in the eye with an ice pick.
I knew he was going to say that.
Fair enough.
All right, so I almost got every one of you except for Ron. I failed on Ron.
You got me, obviously.
All right, so last question for you guys, and then we will open the floor. Okay, Doug, here's what happens. You get to decide whether you stay or not. You can literally don't even have to say goodbye. Ron's done it many times. He just fucking hung up.
Irish goodbye. It's great.
Why say goodbye? When we open up to the floor, it turns a little into chaos, and no one ever knows when this goes on. So for each of you, each of my CEOs, I'm curious what has been, and Doug, you go first, so in case we can't let you think about it. What has been the biggest personal impact COVID has had on you, or realization? We won't say personal impact, realization, or something like you were like, huh.
Well, aside from all the negative stuff that we all know about, I think there's positive things. That the 3 hours of commute time has been a positive, but I've got, an 18 and a 20-year-old boys, one's in college and one's a senior in high school. And, kids that age are always off with their friends and doing things. So it's been great to spend time with the family and have some quality time. It's been great to discover what we're capable of as a company, working from home and being able to do a good job and perform and continue operating the business. So, I tend to look at the glass as being half full and those have been my learnings and I'm happy about that.
Why haven't you gotten fat like the rest of us? In fact, I think you lost weight, even more weight since the last time I saw you. Are you working out?
Congratulations, Doug. Congratulations.
No, that's anger. That's mad gains anger. So have you been working out, Doug? Have you been running a lot, or are you getting fat like the rest of us?
Yeah,
No, he's not
I'm
getting
maintain, watch the carbs. That's my secret.
Oh, shit.
That's why you got to drink tequila.
Dave, what has been your personal impact besides you get to use your movie theater more?
No, I think patience. I used to have anxiety. I'd wake up and have to get to the office and I'm missing something. And what am I missing? And like, I got all this stuff to do. And, I get to the office in an hour, I'm caught up with everything. And like, okay, what do I do? I think realizing that the anxiety of that, it really doesn't exist. And there's nothing, you could take a step back and take the time and, getting up at my house and like being right there, having that extra time and being able to be. So I think patience and obviously spending time, being able to see the family. We've been quarantined together and it's been great. And, so I think the biggest thing is like, you don't always have to be running and going and moving fast and traveling. And, you could get stuff done, still be happy and get through it.
That's a really good point. Did Hunter cut his hair yet?
I don't think. Oh wait, you know what? Maybe his grandfather. I think his grandfather like did the old shave with the Flowbee and
nice. He needed it.
Flowbee.
He needed it.
Down south this week, and they're still up at up in Central Florida. But yeah, I thought I saw it maybe, but I haven't seen him in a couple of days, so I don't know.
Ron, what's been your biggest change? We've actually never asked you that. We've been hounding you every show, sucking every knowledge out of your brain, but we've never asked you from a personal perspective the
Yeah,
impact.
I've actually got a personal positive and negative, and then a industry positive and negative. For the positive side, personally, after being married for 25 years, my wife actually now knows what my job is because supply chain is mentioned on the news every night. So we've been married,
so
and
true.
I come home with a paycheck, and she's like, I don't know what you do. You do something that moves stuff. But I think real positive from the industry side, things like this, there's been a lot of innovation within the industry of supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's beverage or transportation or there's a lot of creativity that folks are looking at solving big problems really fast, and very smart people are coming up with solutions very quickly that I think are going to resonate for years. It's terrible to say, but I think those folks that aren't that clever are going to disappear really quick, and maybe that's not a bad thing. From a bigger side, from a negative, my daughter graduates from college in a month, and I'm not going to be able to see her walk across the stage. That's terrible, especially how much money I've paid for her college. But negatively, I think, and this is something that we all struggle with when we're talking either to customers or clients or anything else, the politicization of impacts of, you know, what it is, whether it's face masks or opening up or anything else. It's really
amazing
to have conversations with somebody that should be, you know, at the 30,000 foot level, that it's instantly, do you wear a red hat or not? And it shouldn't be that way. And it's tough. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all people, we're all trying to do things for each other. And it'd be nice if we could look at this as an issue we've got to solve, and just focus on it that way. So,
I love that. I love that. So now we're taking time to open up to the floor. And I would encourage Sharon to use video because I miss seeing your face, Sharon. But Chris Jolly, what do you got for us, Chris?
What's going on, guys? How
you guys, he's got his mic set up.
I do.
Look at him. He's so
finally
happy.
Got all of this ready to rock. Posted my first video yesterday.
Good.
And yeah, just really enjoying working for myself right now.
Good. What do you think about Doug's points? Because I'll tell you that we've all, for the last month in Mad Travelers, we've all been railing on everything that Doug has just said. And I don't know if we gave him time. I don't think we gave him time to think all that stuff up. I think it's real. So what were your thoughts when he was talking?
On the carrier relationship aspect of it? I mean, Doug is 1,000% spot on. Like, I don't see how this is even really a discussion. Like, that's just the way I was brought up in the industry. And I know I've talked to Jamin about this on the side, like putting your carriers first and building those up. I mean, I lived by the saying of overpay them when you don't have to, so they undercharge you when they don't have to.
Right. And Chris, am I right? Aren't I? Because when I get these messages from brokers telling me that they want to take care of their current carriers.
Yeah.
Are you getting those messages too?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I don't see how people are asking to push back on the rates right now on drivers and really do that, because it's going to flip back. I mean, it's just a wagon wheel of an industry. It's just going to keep rolling and keep rolling and keep rolling. Like,
I meant to ask Doug, why is our this is a really stupid lawyer question, and Ron has had to educate me a little bit on this as well. Why is our industry so volatile in the truckload with rates? And I feel like it's always like this. Or am I wrong?
Because it's so fragmented. Right. You've got hundreds of thousands of shippers, and you've got hundreds of thousands of carriers, and no carrier has a balanced network. So they have empty miles, and they're willing to drop the price to fill an empty lane. Shippers are willing to take advantage of that. You've got, no shipper has a big enough Rolodex to know all the carriers. They don't have time to manage that many relationships. So the role that the broker plays is, using technology to have that big Rolodex and be able to make matches. And so
just freaking summarize that, didn't you?
The real answer is it's an inefficient market.
Mm-hmm. There goes Ron. This is what Ron's been preaching too.
Yeah.
And it frustrates me because carriers, I see them on, especially on Facebook, that seems to be their location. They'll say, fuck brokers, we're not using brokers anymore. Don't use brokers. And all the brokers are like, who are you going to use for sales? Are you going to call the customers?
Well, yeah, your typical small trucking company exists to serve a couple of core customers in their neighborhood, right? And those customers are shipping outbound to their markets. And now they've got a truck driver stranded in a market, 500 miles away, and they need to get them home, and they don't have a sales organization.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can all point fingers, but at the end of the day, we all need each other.
It's true. Hey, Ron, on that note, why do shippers always say they don't want brokers? They only want carriers. But that's not true. They use brokers to source the cheap carriers. And I don't mean cheap in that way. I mean cheaper than Schneider.
No, and it's not true. Although Sharon's talked about it before, where there's companies that can't stand brokers because what brokers have done to them.
But carriers have done shit to all of them too.
Yeah, they have. But I think realistically, Doug hit it, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. Good brokers can bring to shippers small regional asset-based carriers that you would never know about that do fantastic work for you in a very specific region. And the right broker can hook up with the right carrier with the right shipper and can become a long-term relationship that's mutually beneficial for everyone and can really help everybody's business grow. And everybody making money is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to add in, like, when did carrier sales stop being carrier sales? Like, why do we just live on a load board and try and do that? Like, what value are you adding at that point? I mean, I was brought up to be a carrier sales rep, not a carrier posting rep.
Great point, Chris. Curtis Treiber earlier in the week had a post just like that. And I think for a lot of people at the desk level, I'd love to hear if you'll disagree, there's a disconnect between training on that topic. It's like pushed out to answer the phones and start ripping on here's your buy rate. But they need training as a salesperson the same way, a customer facing salesperson does.
And I'll get to the floor in just a minute, but I want to ask David. David, sorry, TJ, I'll get to you in just a minute, folks. But David, you used to be carrier. Did you use brokers?
Yeah, well, I can say from a shipper's perspective, because I've had a lot of friends that are shippers and had thousands of customers. And I would say that I think shippers have their brokers they've been using for many years, and they built that relationship, and they have their handful of ones. They don't need 10 more. Therefore, they say, I don't have any room in my portfolio for another broker, even though I get 100 of them call me a day. So they tell everybody, listen, we only use asset. I think it's an excuse that's used because I think every shipper has to use brokers. They can't just have one carrier or two carriers or five carriers do everything.
Ron, is it an excuse?
They have to use.
No, actually, I'll disagree. I think there's absolutely shippers that use as their strategy to only use asset-based carriers, because asset-based carriers bring one thing that brokers can't bring, and they bring accountability and
control.
The control. And if you are shipping specific commodities, I don't want to deal with brokers who may or may not have the Cassandras as the attorneys to make sure that things are getting,
which are awesome fucking attorneys.
There's a lot of them that don't, so they walk away from you. So if you're moving things that are high value or high stress, asset-based is the way to go.
Vitaly, you're a shipper as well. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that it brings for us specifically is because we're retail, just for some background, that relationship that our stores have with drivers be much harder to do that with a broker because they'd be picking and choosing, right? Whereas a stable carrier with stable assets would be bringing the same drivers every day. And they also get to build their own relationship, right? Because mall deliveries and store deliveries are kind of a different game altogether. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. And TJ, so go ahead, James.
Oh, I was going to say Andrew as well is a shipper and has kind of a unique business too that might have some insights on.
I love Andrew. Andrew, you came to my risk session and you were knocking it out with comments. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I think, having worked as what we'd call a 3PL in the past, and, sometimes it's not so much the shipper, it's who that transportation manager is and their experience. Like Ron said, it's not that they don't care for brokers, it's that they got burnt in some way, shape, or form. But I do believe that accountability is huge, visibility is huge. When we talk about in the past bottom feeders, some brokers are where it's just smile and dial, and whatever guy picks up the phone and gives me a truck is going to move that freight. And as a shipper, that scares me. I never know, one, if my load is going to pick up on time until the truck either makes or misses the appointment, what that truck's going to look like, what's going to happen after that. I'm not vetting the carrier like we talked in the risk and things like that. So I think from when no offense to Doug or any of the large brokers, is, you offer something that's a little bit different. You're a little more into the transportation management than just the dialing for diesel and finding me a truck when I need it. So that's great. And that's where those brokers will excel. But it's the 5 guys in a strip mall office that are just booking freight off, DAT or truckstop.com that really give a lot of brokers bad press, and that resonates with shippers. And I think shippers probably are looking for a way to kind of get around that. They want to know what truck's going to hit their dock. They want to know what truck's going to hit the customer's dock because that's an extension of their business.
It makes sense. And TJ, are brokers still using DAT?
Yeah, for sure. They are. I mean, it's for me.
That was a deposition question. We already knew the answer.
Yeah. For me, I always look at it as something, it's a good starting tool. I think, once you get good enough, I think you need to kind of gravitate away from it. But, Chris touched on the, importance of passing on, being an actual carrier sales rep. And I think that goes down to bring that along with you. We talked about it earlier, if they're trying to put a model in place in which that's not a thing, speak up, say, this is what I've been taught. That's how you continue to keep that going. But, we talk about the importance of brokers. I mean, you really look at, a lot of shippers, when it comes to paying on time, I mean, a big, upside of a broker is, they've got quick pay, their ability to pay the carriers quickly and on time. That's a big benefit for some carriers, because then, I may pay a carrier in 7 days and on a quick pay program, and then turn around and the shipper doesn't pay me for 60 and it was supposed to be net 30. And, it gives them a little flexibility on that end too. But again, that just comes down to carrier relations. They're able to keep them paid, keep them happy, talk with them. And that's a big benefit brokers do bring to shippers.
Before I dive into another question that I have on this topic, does anybody have a question for Doug? Especially since we've gotten him calmed and he has a couple drinks in. And
Pat's got one here.
No, wait, like Chris, I'm sorry, you guys, but Chris, I just
right
love Chris.
Is Echo hiring business development and salespeople? That's what they want to know right now.
What do they want to know? I'm sorry.
Do we have
is
what?
Echo hiring business development or sales people?
Yeah, we're hiring. I mean, we had some cost reductions, in April tied to the business reductions, but they were furloughs. We're bringing those people back as soon as we can, and we've got more hiring classes coming in behind those people. So yeah, we're always hiring.
I like it. Christopher.
Hi.
Mi amor, mi corazón.
Sorry, I was blowing up the chat and I didn't realize I could join as a participant. So, for me, guys, my name is Chris Baker, by the way. I'm a compliance specialist and I've been in the industry for about 2 years. I come from healthcare. I worked in healthcare for about 4. I also worked in the funereal services for 2 and retail for
Dude, what's funereal?
I have a degree in funereal sciences, so I used to be an embalmer. So I've kind of worked the gamut in all the different fields.
You're coming to happy hour tonight, right?
You are not
he was about to jump over it. You're coming to happy hour tonight, right? So we can talk about that?
We will. Yeah, I used to do blunt force trauma restoration. I was an embalming apprentice for Dignity Funeral.
Look at Sharon's face now. She's like, what the hell?
Dude, you should have been on Dexter, bro. You should have.
Dexter!
But to that point, I worked in healthcare in mental health, and I also have bipolar disorder. We were talking about a subject earlier, and I want to see what, Doug, I really liked your points on everything. I really think that
I knew you would.
You concisely and ethically convey the points and the message that I think a leader should, especially for a company. So kudos to you for that. Not that you needed my validation or anything like that. But my thing is, my question is, we're talking about, we had somebody mention something about in-office paranoia after all these restrictions lifted, all these different repercussions that we may or may not see. And what's interesting about what we're currently going through is it's unprecedented, right? We literally have nothing in our lifetime to compare this template of this time to. So for my question is, I'm an employee who has bipolar disorder, and I like the flexibility of some companies saying that they're going to, do like a hybrid schedule where they have 3 days in, 2 days out, a little bit of everything. But my question is, what additional steps, corporate assistance wise, are some of you guys prepared to handle for the psychological repercussions regarding your employees? Because we were talking about there was a comment that was made by one of the panelists about, Googling and, whether they have COVID-19 and kind of the paranoia of whether we're safe or not safe. But I legitimately want to know because, for me having bipolar disorder, I don't know if this pandemic has affected me in a way that's post-traumatic yet. It hasn't really developed. That's not how things like that.
Well, let's give him a chance to answer your question. Amazingly brainy, smart man.
But I'm just thinking that, for me, I want to know that my employer not only is looking out for my safety, but in the event that we're going to be looking at my KPIs and how external psychological factors like feeling safe or feeling paranoia or not feeling paranoia will affect performance. What are some things that you're doing as a leader or maybe would consider doing as a leader in the event that you had some performance related issues related to psychological development from what has gone on?
Yeah, well, we have an employee assistance plan, a program that's available to all employees at any time. And
perfect. I love that.
It's run by a third party, so everything is entirely confidential. And our employees are free to call that number and connect with somebody that can be helpful to them.
I love that. Most of these insurances provided by companies actually have, like Cigna, et cetera, have facilitated corporate assistance programs that go through the insurance.
That's awesome.
You can essentially authorize therapy visits for employees who have had psychological trauma, loss, you name it. So I think that's very smart. That's an excellent answer, Doug.
Yeah, he's also got, Chris, he's got, okay, so I know personally from working for Doug is that one of my favorite people is Karen DeFalco, and she's your HR group, but you have a really strong HR group. I know people hear HR and they cringe, but I actually could walk into Karen's office and any of his HR people and talk to them for a while about anything. I don't think you have a traditional HR model. I think they're more like a business partnership model. I could be speaking out of term, Doug, but that's at least how I felt when I worked there.
No, our HR people are empowered to help employees to be confidential. They're not a pipeline back to me or anybody else. Their primary job is to look after employees' well-being and keep us out of court also, and make sure that our employees are satisfied. And I think hopefully it's a safe place for people to go to. But if not, you can always use the employee assistance line and connect with a professional outside.
And just so you guys know, just because he's a big company doesn't mean that's why he is employee assistant. I mean, I had a couple clients that were really, really big and they didn't have anything employee assistance. So that's not a normal thing. Did anybody else have a question for Doug, or do we want to dive back into? Oh, Sharon, go for it. Oh, sorry, I skipped for Pat again.
Oh, it's all good.
Pat, go ahead. Sorry.
My question is just around what people's thoughts are in Doug years, especially just around travel post-COVID. Being a person that goes to a lot of in-person meetings and used to base a lot of my business around travel, like what do we think that's going to look like? I think that's pretty interesting how all that's going to shape out.
Yeah, that's a great question. I deal a lot with Wall Street and, the investment bankers and such, all tend to be a lot of them are based in New York, and they literally fly into town to have a 2-hour meeting and turn around and fly back to New York. And we do that with some of our customers. And I think that this time that we've gone through is going to make us rethink that entire paradigm. I mean, why get on an airplane and fly, 2 hours to have a 1-hour meeting with somebody when you can accomplish the same thing on a Zoom meeting? And it's unfortunate for the travel and the hotel industry and the restaurant industry, because I think it's going to impact that. But I think people are going to really question whether they need to travel or not and put themselves in harm's way by getting on an airplane and exposed to people that are sitting 6 inches from them.
Ron, from a shipper, I agree. From a shipper's perspective, are you with that, or do I need to go and stand outside your door and knock on the door like Godla had to do?
No, couldn't agree with Doug more. I think it's absolutely, as much as factories are figuring out ways to creatively, I mean, they got to punch in different ways. People that are coming in with these kind of business relationships, this is a great avenue. This is a great way to do it. I think this is going to be one of the positive impacts of what we've dealt with, that we realize that, hey, we can still communicate effectively and build a relationship, albeit via the video screen versus, at the steakhouse afterward.
Yeah, I think I realized we were so wasteful. Like, we were, as an executive, I'm on a plane probably 3-4 times a week sometimes, and I am doing exactly what Doug is saying, which is I'm flying to a destination to meet with someone for less than 2 hours, just to fly back or fly to another destination. So you might have a flight that costs $600 for the flight. It's $200 for the hotel that night per diem. It's $1,000 depending on what type of client you have or how many people you're investing in. Versus what Doug just said, or David just said, I can accomplish this on a Zoom meeting. So I just saved $1,500.
David, do you think the Zoom isn't effective as in person? I mean, you actually have more experience than a lot of us in this because you already were doing an offshore business.
Yeah, I don't think it's as effective. I think really what's going to dictate is the scare around the COVID. If they fix this and it's like the H1N1 and those, and it kind of fades off and people are confident and stop thinking about it. If it goes away like that, which there's a chance that it could, I think people are going to get back to traveling again. I think a face-to-face and a human interaction will always be, have an edge over a video conference, in my opinion. And also it's just, if you make the effort to go see somebody and get on a plane and see them face to face, then I think it adds an element of in the relationship, an element that you care and you're willing to do that. You're willing to spend the $1,500, go get their business, and it means something. So I definitely think Zoom meetings now is going to be in the immediate future. It's going to have to do, but fast forward 2 years from now and everybody's forgotten about this and back to normal business, as normal as it can be from it, and it's not an issue anymore. If a million people fly in a plane and there's no problem, then a million people are going to fly in a plane. And so,
yeah. And it's harder for me, David, it's harder for me to tell somebody's expressions and watch them when it's over Zoom. As a lawyer, at least it's harder. And then like people like Doug and Ron and yourself, you guys can run away from me on Zoom. And when I'm in your office, it's harder for you guys to get away. I can trap you, and that's actually quite true. I'm not making. I know that's funny, but it's quite true.
If you compare
Sharon
to the live,
go ahead, David.
If you compare the virtual event, there was just a major live virtual event, and you compare the virtual event to the main event. I mean, to being in person, I didn't think it was even close.
Me neither.
You can get people out.
Handshake goes a long way.
Yeah, I don't think it even came. I think it wasn't even remotely close to what the live events can produce for a business and relationship.
Yeah. Chandler, Sharon, what's going on, girl?
Not much.
I miss you.
Hey, I'm going to change the subject just a second. I wanted to ask Doug, how do you handle non-competes when you're hiring somebody?
Ooh.
Girl, are you after my heart?
Let me drink right quick.
I don't know. I probably have to consult with my lawyer before I ask that question in a public forum.
Let me turn on the scary music.
Look, David scratching his head and he didn't even get the question. Like, whoa.
I mean, we've seen some really strong non-competes that scare us from even talking to good candidates. And I feel bad for them. They shouldn't have ever signed it to begin with. But I mean, do you go ahead and hire people with non-competes?
Or let's twist this around. Do you have a philosophy with non-competes that you could articulate to us?
Me?
Yeah. So look, everybody deserves to earn a living. I'm more concerned about non-solicit than I am non-compete.
Mm-hmm.
If you work for me and you're managing a $10 million account, now you go to work for somebody else. And remember how I talked about how important those relationships are? And so you work your relationship over to another company and use that relationship to take the business from our company to yours. That's a solicitation that I don't think is right. And I think we should be protected by that. So I'm more concerned about you soliciting, the customers and the employees that Echo spent money to develop than I am you working for somebody and earning a living, because I think you have a right to do that.
I agree with what Doug just said, except I'd add on the fact that if I'm worried about the non-compete, it means I didn't do a good enough job to be an employer of that person to want to stay with me, to want to go across town to go work for another freight brokerage. And as far as the non-competes we've had, if we find out someone's going to another logistics company in another city, and that book of business is not our core book of business, we immediately revoke our non-compete because we don't want to hurt somebody from making a living for themselves. But going back to the core of what Doug's saying, don't go take my clients, but I don't want to keep you from getting a job.
Yeah. And Sharon, for those of you out there who want to know what the answers to Sharon's question is, first of all, before I hire someone, I always ask them if they have a non-compete, and I want to see it. And sometimes they're not allowed to disclose it. So then sometimes I will pay, depending on the level of the person I'm hiring, I will pay for an attorney to go and analyze their non-compete and tell me the enforceability of it. I think that it is dangerous as an employer to hire someone who has a valid non-compete because you can be just as liable for their conduct. So better call Cass answer, which is take the lawyer hat off and put the sketchy shit back on, which is if you're going to hire someone with a non-compete, put some money aside to know you might have to pay for a lawyer. 2, how you really don't get in trouble is that person flies under the radar. Don't change LinkedIn. Don't call customers. Don't tell friends where you're going. Keep really, really quiet for a while, and then you should be okay.
And if you get a lawyer to review it, it's always a good idea too. Go ahead and see if maybe they can send a letter to the previous employer saying, hey, can you release us from this non-compete, and give the previous employer a chance to rebuttal? Like say, yes, we'll release you.
TJ, the reason why a lot of people don't do that, TJ, is because they don't want to tip off the next employer either. They don't want to tip off that employer.
My biggest thing that I always find is when you're flying under the radar and they don't hear from you and they don't know what you're doing, they're a little more suspicious. When you send them a letter saying, this is exactly what I'm doing, this is what I'd like to be released from this. Cassandra. You guys rebuttal with 4 or 5 core customers you don't want me going after, or a certain industry or region, whatever it is. Rebuttal with something, but let's start an open dialogue so at least they know what you're doing. Because if you're not doing anything wrong, then you're trying to start that dialogue. I think.
We've had an instance just recently where a company was downsizing, so they closed.
Was it 3 letters?
They closed an office. No, this is somebody else. But they were still under a non-compete. Well, if they closed the office and it wasn't the employee's fault, they're still making them honor the non-compete, and
that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. But that doesn't impact enforceability, Sharon.
Yeah.
I also think it matters in which state they're in. Certain states
Chandler.
enforce and some don't.
Yeah.
I have a question for Doug, if I could throw one out there, but
sure.
We talked a lot about and just in the media and on here too, but companies, a lot of companies going through this COVID-19, it's going to show what type of company they really are coming out of it. How they treat their employees. We've talked about the TQL situation, a couple of things, but I've sat in some backroom meetings and stuff and talked, but was that a big thing on your guys' radar? Was that a topic of discussion that got brought up? Was how are we going to trickle this down to management and trickle it down to the floor and come out of this with a lot better reputation, a little better light coming out of this pandemic?
Well, it sounds corny. I'd like to think that's just our DNA. We really believe that our employees are important and we invest in them. And, sometimes we have to make decisions that they don't like, but we're transparent about it. We tell them why we're making the decision. But we did, I think to your point, see this as an opportunity to show our support, to empower them to be successful, to keep working, to make money, and still feel the camaraderie and the culture that we think we have in our offices.
Yeah, because I think the biggest thing was the transparency part was, like with TQL, people didn't know why they were being late or they were told something weird or wrong and they knew that was not right. I think that's a great point. That's the biggest thing right there is just, being upfront for people.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Doug, I had a question for you as far as, transparency and culture, right? From my perspective, coming from the technology side in the last decade, I'm not a broker, I'm not a carrier, I'm a shipper. I've helped companies with technology to make the whole process easier. And one of the things that I market and talk about nonstop is collaboration. And you'll know that if you kind of follow my stuff. But, collaboration is this big fat word that people throw around. Culture is a big fat word that people throw around. But do you think with post-COVID and kind of things being critical that we're going to finally start looking at this industry not as a zero-sum game, but as one that we can bring each other to the promised land together? Or is it going to continue to get back to, hey, I'm out for me only?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
I like it, Adam.
I'll tell you what, I think there is some level of collaboration. I can tell you for a fact that there's two large competitors of ours. I talk with them on the phone every week. We compare best practices. I had 2 conversations in the last 2 days about the best way to return employees to work. And we share plans, we share ideas, to an extent. That doesn't seem like something that's proprietary. It seems like it's the best practice. And so I think there actually is a lot of collaboration right now between the players in our industry, because we're all trying to do the best that we can and do the right thing for our customers and our carriers and our employees. And so there's probably more collaboration than you think.
From a shipper perspective, Ron, what do you think about that?
No, I agree with Doug completely. I think there's a lot of conversations between different folks, and the factories that I'm working with. It's as simple as, how do we ensure the employees can punch in?
But has it always been that way, Ron?
No, not at all.
That's a good point. I think crisis brings people together.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the day, we might be competitors or, loose competitors, but at the end of the day, we're all still people, and we care about people for leaders.
You mean CEOs are people too? I took that from you, Jamin.
Sometimes factories that I'm working with.
David, what are your thoughts on this? And you've been in the trucking industry. You've been all over. Bye, Doug. We love you to pieces.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
gotta go refill my drink and get ready for my next.
Your 4 o'clock.
Hey, Doug.
We can't wait to find out who wins.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
You can somebody will let us know on social media or something.
Yeah, I'm sure there's Echo people listening. So
they totally are, and they'll totally tell me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doug. You're fucking awesome. We love you.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for having me.
That Andrew Silver just popped in as I see him in there.
Hey, buddy.
Andrew Silver, Molo in the house.
I wanted to talk to Doug.
Oh, sorry. We just popped Doug out right when you. What are you drinking, Andrew?
Passe Azul.
Ooh,
This stuff is the best.
Hey, Andrew, don't come in here being all smooth and shit.
Is was he ready for that? And also,
no, Andrew, how dare you? I'm drinking my 7-Eleven wine, and you want to through with your booze.
It's Friday afternoon. I'm a freight broker. It's been a long week.
Yeah, it has been. Andrew, I'll tell you that I think it was Butter. Butter, didn't you tell me you were listening to something about Andrew and he was lighting it on fire?
Yeah, it was a post you did, Andrew. You did a video, and it was just a real honest, straightforward video, maybe about a couple weeks ago. And I love that it wasn't overly polished or anything like that, just straightforward and genuine. It was legit.
Why don't you ever say nice things about me like that, Butter? No, he loved you. Andrew, he was like ranting about you the entire day when he saw that. And I was like, I'm better than Andrew. David, can you please help us? Talk to us. Do you think that the industry is coming together with COVID, or do you think it's a permanent change? If you do,
Nothing's permanent.
David's cynical like me.
It's nothing permanent. Everybody's listening. In tragedy, everybody comes together. In crisis, everybody comes together to get through it. But when it all gets down to it, we all got to do what we do. And I mean, when you say culture is just one of those big words, I think culture is like the word. Like your company culture and your flag you fly and your colors
it's fucking everything
you have is everything. And like when you cut people open in your company, they better bleed your colors, or and then you don't have to worry about non-competes, right? If you take care of your people, they bleed your colors, and non-compete doesn't even matter. So you say fuck non-competes, right, Andrew?
I might have texted Dave that while I was watching you guys. I was like, if I got to answer that question, my answer would be
okay. So wait, before
I think
Andrew,
it's employer's job to keep their employees happy.
Yes.
If my employees aren't happy and they want to go work somewhere else, they can. I definitely agree with Doug about non-solicits, though. If I'm going to give you the support system to build up an account, I don't think it's reasonable for you to take that somewhere else. But it's my job to create the absolute best environment for our people. So, I'm not worried about non-compete so much. It's not fun.
Non-solicits, that's nice, Andrew. I like how you said that, because it wasn't that you were angry that they were leaving the company. You were just making a honest statement of, if I helped you cultivate that account and it was grown here, let's just keep that here. Let's just be respectful about the business. I respect that perspective, instead of it being because you want to leave my company, I'm going to blackball you and make sure you never have another opportunity in this industry again.
So Andrew, you made a mistake, Andrew.
I've tried to help almost every person who's left here get another job. Even a guy who told me to F myself on his way out the door. A few weeks later, I was giving him a recommendation. So I don't think there's any in creating that kind of friction with former people who are in our industry.
Nice.
Legit.
Andrew, you made a mistake.
What a mistake.
Now it's time for a game.
Drinking that bouginess. Matt Henning and
Oh,
Curtis.
they have another CEO. You just popped right in when Doug left. Didn't
Quiet
you,
guy,
Andrew?
JD.
All right. It's Curtis. You are
Curtis
also
and Matt.
included in this, and Matt, you are as well. Gov and Jay, stay there. Nice try. Okay, we're gonna start with David because I feel like I went light on David last time. Ron, stop. Ron, why are you so mean to me in my music and my dancing and my games? Okay. God.
Games are fun.
Okay. We're going back to Never Have I Ever. And it's gonna get worse for you. Andrew, are you ready? Because you don't look ready.
I mean, you start with never have I ever. I'm not going to commit to this until I hear the.
You're going to commit.
Andrew, what about that grit?
Yeah, Andrew, that's what the video was about. It was about grit. You remember, Jay? That's what the video was about. And the thing is I have Andrew's personal cell phone number. So if he doesn't answer these questions, I'll put it on. Craigslist and say for free money, I buy your house within 24 hours.
There you go.
Post to Miami to LA load on that.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
His
David,
flights
are you
only
ready?
$17 right now.
The game is called Never Have I Ever. Matt Gaines asks the CEOs tough questions. So, David, you cannot think. You have to just answer. You have to say, I have or I have never. So, David, have you gone dumpster diving?
I've never done dumpster diving.
Never gone dumpster diving?
No.
Ron, have you gone dumpster? No. JD. Thank you, JD. Fuck.
So back when I was hustling,
Yeah, exactly.
I used to go get furniture and I would refinish it.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I would flip it and sell it in order for me to make some money.
Of course, you made money off of it. I was at Cornell, and all these rich kids would throw out their stuff in dumpsters, and it was brand new. And my little legs would be sticking right out of the dumpster. Sharon, have you been dumpster diving, Sharon? Let's unmute her. I think she said yes. I think she. Did you just say you went dumpster diving yesterday?
Not yesterday, but I have dumpster dived in the past.
Girl, that's my good girl.
I love Sharon. Oh my God.
Butter, have you been dumpster diving?
I mean, like, no, not really.
Wait.
Well, I was like,
not really. You either have or you have not.
I was gonna say I've gone at, like, baseballs and stuff go down the sewer. When I was a kid, I'd go like down in the sewer to.
Oh, that's my butter.
All right.
Dumpster dive at the chip factory.
Chip factory?
Hey, so
Frito-Lay.
Grace Sharkey says College Town dumpster diving is hot gold.
I'm telling you, it is. They throw out, because you know what happens is that people like David, his kids go off to college. And David, I know he spoils the shit out of his kids. Yes, you do, David. I know that.
You're going to be in trouble with David. Leave David alone. And Hunter says his hair is still long.
I know. Okay, Andrew, Silver, dumpster diving.
No. Sounds fun, though.
Curtis?
I've never done it. No.
Whatever. You guys, okay.
I did like Gov, though, like taking that as an opportunity to say, like, hey, this is refinish. I mean, that's like a hustle right there.
You guys see? David just left.
Proponent of the hustle.
Curtis, when I tell you that I was so broke in college that I literally made homeless people look rich. It was a tough time back then.
All right. One more question. No. Maybe we'll decide.
I got a question.
Yuck, Chandler.
I got a question for our shippers since Sharon's back. So we've been selected to be part of your top 5 carrier providers.
Wait, I don't think Ron is a shipper.
What?
I'm not
Ron's
a shipper.
too.
We're changing the never have I
Ron's now saying he's not a shipper.
This is a shipper question for Sharon, Ron, and any other shipper you have.
All right, Sharon's not a shipper, but we can go for. Okay, let me cut my game music since you're starting a question for the shippers.
So my shipper question will start from scratch. We've done business with
Do you have a list, Chandler?
For 2 to 3 years. How much contact or touch is the right balance right now? So we're one of your existing providers. How much contact or touch is the right balance right now?
You mean as in right now it's different than some other time? Is that what you're looking at?
If some of our manufacturers are slow or they're not building as many widgets as they used to, I don't want to keep calling and saying, hey, when are you going to start the factory again? I don't want to be a pest. I want to be the right team member for your logistics solution.
Yeah, I guess I would say that
We might as well bring Vitaly back into.
now that the amount of touch or contact you would have would not be any different than it was at any other time. I mean, things slow down for different reasons for factories all the time. The fact that this is COVID-19, it's got a name. But if you're a water factory, you slow down in the winter. So if you carry for a water factory, you're probably going to talk to them a hell of a lot around July 4th, Memorial Day, and Labor Day. You're probably not going to talk to them a lot around Thanksgiving. I don't think that this changes that contact. The rules don't change. It's just things move up and down accordingly.
Good answer.
So guys, I have an exciting announcement. So Antonia is on right now. Antonia, you just posted that you got your first load of your business.
That's right.
So tell us about that.
It was actually not as bad as I thought. It was a lot of calling, and it's Friday on Phoenix. So, you know, it's probably the worst case scenario for trying to post a load off of the load board. But
sometimes it's the best.
It really was not a problem. Everybody was very polite. Everybody was very kind. The people that couldn't help me right now told me straight out, like they don't onboard any carriers that would have less than 90 days or a year. But they were like, go ahead and fill out the packet because and put it on the calendar because when your 90 days is up, hit us back right away. I think I talked to people. I gave everybody 5 minutes of my time and didn't just go, hey, thanks, fuck off, bye. You know, it took a couple of minutes, and whether they had a load for me or not, or they'd forgotten to take it off the board or whatever. I just said, you know what, thanks a lot. I appreciate the advice, and you know, have a good weekend and talk to you soon. And on like my 5th call that was available, I got a load. So I'm going to Wichita. That's why I'm all sweaty.
All right.
Congratulations, girl.
Girl. So it's really
Ron,
you guys scared me the other day. I was listening to Wednesday.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That was
you scared the shit out of me because you were talking to Chris, and you were talking about how risk management and how brokers, you were like 3-month rule, don't break it, blah blah.
That's
blah.
right.
Like, well, I'm screwed.
3 months is really
You know,
low.
I mean,
Actually,
everybody's got. I really want you to think about because you really do have a lot of great information here for shippers and brokers, but there are a lot of carriers that are listening to you as well. And more than just saying you can't work for us, it would be more helpful to say, why do you say no, and how can I get you to?
So we talked about that a bit. Let me open that up to the CEOs as well. So we talked about that. Do you hire a carrier that's only had authority for 3 months? David?
I think if carriers like Antonia got on a Zoom meeting where we could look face to face, I think I would. I think I'd load her.
Do your people have enough time to talk?
No, I think what happens when you hide behind the phone, you don't know who the carrier is. You don't know if they're double brokering. You have no idea, and you don't get you don't look them face to face. Like, clearly, she wants to, just do good work and provide good service and earn a living. And I think that like where the breakdown is in carrier setup, it's like it's just a process and there's no human interaction in it. So I think. But I'm not in the brokerage business now, but, I think that if I used to look at it when I was in it and say, listen, if they're a good carrier, they're willing to send pictures of their trucks and they're trying to get up and running, like, people need a shot. People need to, we run out of truckers if nobody can get business when they're 90 days, you have no new truckers. If you have no new truckers, eventually there's no truck, the market diminishes. So you got to let new people get in and do some hauling, but that's just my opinion, but big liability is what stops you from doing that. And then
yes, that's the direction I was about to go, David.
Liability. If you have a problem, Antonia, and you hit somebody, like brokers are going to get sued because you were brand new. So it's like it's set up for failure right out of the gate. It makes it very difficult for people to go into business for themselves. That's why being an agent of somebody is really good. And when you get that power of being an agent that has all of the safety and everything behind it, it's how you get on the ground and get your feet wet and get into business.
Antonio, we have some questions real quick. A lot of people are asking, what kind of equipment do you run? Maybe if you can give them a quick hit of where you like to run or what you got, so maybe some of these folks on here can reach out to you.
And just to premise, we only do this for Antonia and Ingrid because there are people. We don't use the comments or Matt Gaines for a fucking load board. But go ahead. Y'all know I have to say that.
Well, no, but here's the thing. The reason why I'm so excited about Antonia is because Antonia was one of the ones who said that she was listening to Ron's call 2 weeks ago. She was listening to some of the other calls. She was learning. She was taking notes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I said it, Antonia.
Now, we aren't a fan of the load board post and all that stuff, but help my sister out. If you got out in Wichita, Kansas, you can grab that and grab another load, great. But Antonia, we're just excited to see that your company is growing and that you're starting to grow on loads and you're starting to make some money. So we wish you all the best. Be as safe as possible.
And Antonia, don't worry. No one really listens to me. That's why I keep having a job. So when you see me tell people not to do something, they will 100% do the opposite, just so you know. Ron, are you hiring carriers? No.
You know what? I'm seriously not on here to look for
I know you're not. We love you.
I really am on here for the information. I feel like maybe it's just because I've been through a little bit of life. I'm not a kid. I've had a couple of businesses. This is my tax office. And so I'm perfectly fine with starting from scratch and learning and working up just like I did. I was a New York State trooper. I did that for 20 years and retired. Wow. Then I was a captain at the USC Police Department. I did that for
Damn, girl.
I run my mom's accounting firm. She retired, so I said, I'm out. I'm on a truck. I don't want to be inside anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
Andrew,
that's what I do. So
Andrew,
really,
have you hired people with 3 months of authority? Carriers with 3 months of authority?
Good job, Antonia.
I'm going to hire Antonia if she'll work with us.
Everybody wants Madtropolis as carriers.
I can appreciate David's approach. You know, I've actually been pushing a lot of our carrier-focused people to leverage Zoom. I think Zoom's a weapon, frankly. I missed some of the earlier conversation, but I don't know that we ever have to go back to flying around all over the place to meet with companies. So with regards to your question, we do have a 3-month rule, but it's flexed up and down based on specific customer requirements and even some carrier requirements as well. So it's not so much a finite rule as much as managing on a case by case.
I think that's how I got this job, to tell you the truth, is because I did get one of the smaller, I don't want to say the name of the brokerage, but it's not one of the big 3 letters. But all those to fill out the, sign up for their app. It's not exclusive, so I don't care. But this is a mid-sized broker. It's covered by my factoring company in case I don't want to wait 30 days. But it's good. And they were willing to. They knew I have 1 month. Today, I have 1 month authority, and I'm honest and straight with them. I gave them my history and what I do and what I'm trying to do, because I want my business to be women focused and in flatbed. Because I was out here with Melton for a year and only saw 2 women on flatbeds.
Yeah. And wait, so is that what you run in flatbed?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
girl, flatbed is good.
I'm leveraging my friendships and associations with and emergency responders and military to find some retired people like myself, because we retire in our 40s and then we got nothing to do. And we all want to still stay active and still stay involved. And I found this kind of work to be extremely rewarding. Hate reefer, love flatbed.
Yeah, flatbed's good stuff.
I think that's why it's so important to keep the flexibility of the 3, because there's a lot of good drivers and carriers, owner ops out there that are starting new businesses and finding a way to give them a chance. Cassandra, you talk about not having time, and that is true. It's kind of how you structure it. Then Chris Baker talked about it, having a network of people that are involved. That way you could say, hey, listen, I just talked with Antonia. She seems really good. Can you take some time to give her a call, maybe get on a Zoom call with her, and then you can have another avenue to take it, which you could put some time in and let her tell you she used to be a state trooper and all these things that everybody wants to hear. But it's huge to get those new stories in, because not only that, you're in the proving phase already. They already know they need to prove it. So you're going to get the service. And, if you vet them correctly, structure it so that you can give yourself time to do so.
That's such a good point.
But I appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
Yeah, Antonia. Antonia,
I would never have the chance to talk. I would never have the chance to talk or listen to frank conversations between brokers and shippers This is just not this is not access that carriers get because we deal with dock workers and guards. We don't get a chance to talk to load managers and the shipping managers. And so this is really, really excellent work you guys are doing. I really appreciate it.
Hey,
Listen,
Antonia.
I gotta go get my load because I gotta go pick it up.
Hey, Antonia, real quick. I'm based in Phoenix here as well. I've been doing West Coast flatbed freight for like the last 4 years.
Oh, of course you have, Chris. You are so badass.
Suggestions on what to, I really think you need to look into like rental equipment and construction equipment. It's very, open shipping hours, first come, first serve, ramps, shippers and receivers and everything. It's a good market for you to look into because it can keep you regional if that's what you're looking to do, whatever your business plan is. But I mean, if you're running out to Kansas, I guess that's kind of considered regional, but there's a lot of stuff between Phoenix and Albuquerque, Phoenix and El Paso, and up to Vegas.
I'm an over the road. I'm an over the road
Okay.
US and Canada person. This is my retirement gig. This is my I get paid to drive an RV.
Go see America. North America.
It's a really big
RV. I've seen more of my family and my grandkids and friends and relatives in the last year than I did in the 5 years previous to that, because I can stop for a day. I have my sleeper. I don't need you to put me up. I just want to.
Congratulations.
And Antonio, Sharon, we love Sharon. There's a Sharon the shipper, and then there's a Sharon on the transportation side. And Sharon says to make sure you're involved in women in trucking too.
Yeah,
that's so clever. So make sure to connect with Sharon too.
It's the first association I'm looking into.
Good. Andrew.
We all appreciate what you do.
I have a question for Andrew.
Bye, guys.
Bye. We love you. Keep coming back. Keep coming back and telling us how you do. We got your back.
Safe travels.
I just love her. Where's Ingrid? Where's Ingrid, you guys?
She's been in the comments.
Oh, Ingrid, you want to come on? We miss you. Andrew.
Yes.
I have a question for you, okay? Because all eyes in the industry are actually on you.
This is true.
Because you're growing very fast and you're mysterious still to us.
Horribly mysterious.
He is, and it's driving us. David's laughing.
He's not mysterious if you know him. He's just.
I'm pretty straightforward. Ask me a question, I'll answer it. What do you need to know?
Cool. Andrew, I'm a broker, and I'm coming to you, and I'm telling you that my leader is making me post my loads on the DATs and get those cheap carriers when I'm used to using my normal carriers.
46 cents, 57 cents.
What is your advice to me? And what are your thoughts about that?
You can apply online at shipmolo.com.
Smart fucking man. That was my advice too.
I think that's ridiculous. You guys asked a question earlier. I don't remember exactly what it was, but you know what it was centered around is everybody, now that we've all come together in the midst of chaos and this pandemic, will that last? And the answer is no, it's not going to last. And the reason it won't last is because people are generally self-serving. And I've seen a lot more in our industry than I have in other places. I guess you see it everywhere, but I've only lived in this industry. So my point there is when this all ends and it's no longer self-serving to be on LinkedIn saying, hey, we're all in this together. And we kind of forget about this, whether it's in 2 years or 5 years, people will be going back to what matters most to them. And in some cases, that's how much money they can make today, right? And to make the most money today in this market, you got to screw over some carriers. You got to post your loads for 40 cents a mile, 50 cents a mile, whatever it is you can get. We had a rule that went into place, I think maybe 2 months ago, that our people aren't allowed to book freight for less than $1 a mile. And I know $1 a mile doesn't cover.
Dude, this fucking leadership.
It doesn't cover costs, but they're the only lanes that, other than like an outbound Florida dry lane or maybe an outbound Colorado into the Midwest, you've got to be thinking long term. You've got to be building partnerships on both sides of the business. And it's I scour their Facebook pages looking for hopefully not finding our name where truckers are dragging us through the mud, because that would make me sad, frankly. Our people know that they should be trying to develop these long-term partnerships, not trying to just
you got good people.
They can today.
I know a lot of your people. You got fucking good people. Ron, I have a question for you, Ron, from a shipper's perspective, and I guess it's Vitaly too. Where'd Ron go? Oh, there he is.
Vitaly.
What is it?
Vitaly.
Doesn't it sound sexier when I say Vitaly?
No, but
It sounds Russian though.
Yeah, I had a buddy.
Russian is sexy.
No, I had a buddy.
I don't know, man.
Belarus.
Look at his hair.
Belarus. Vitaly.
It's Vitaly. I'm sorry. Okay, it's Vitaly.
Okay. Don't worry. JD got me.
I got you, man. I promise you. The other Vitaly I knew was just as smooth as you, man. I got you.
As long as
I'm so glad you guys are throwing it out on my show. So Ron, when shippers tell us they will not work with brokers,
fake clear of the throat. What was that fake? What was that?
that was me disregarding the broing it out.
Are you upset about the bromance between me and Vitaly?
You know what? Now you open the door.
Dude, there's a bromance between me and David, between me and Andrew, between me and TJ, Jamin, Adam. Like, what do you mean?
Yes, Ron.
Bro, trying to show up to the dance with the biggest card, man. Come on.
Let's go.
Hey, what's the world without a few
you guys
friends,
get to decide.
man?
Either I ask Andrew a question or you get one of my questions.
Adam, Cassandra gets jealous quickly, so you got to get used to her jealousy.
Hey, we got enough love to give around. Come on.
Adam, you decide. Cassandra's questions or I ask Andrew a question. No, Ron. Ron was my question first. You decide. You're poison.
I'm going to go with Vitaly.
All right, fine. Vitaly, if that's your name.
His name
you guys will get it one day. I believe in you guys.
Vitaly.
Okay, so shippers constantly say they don't want to work with brokers. I do not believe them. Hands down, I do not believe them. I think they're fucking lying because brokers can get them to the owner operators, the cheaper carriers, not the owner operators, the smaller carriers that can run loads for a lot less. Am I right?
Brokers are important. I mean, look, like we work with brokers. In fact, we work with some of the brokers that shall not be named on this company, on this podcast here, right? Fact of the matter
three
is,
letters.
Look, hear me out. We are a Canadian-based company. Most of our staff is in Canada. So our transportation reach in the States just isn't as strong. It's difficult. The States transportation game is so different than the Canadian game. And so it's hard for us to, it seems like there's a lot more smaller centralized companies, right? And it was actually a point made earlier on this podcast where somebody said, hey, what the brokers allow you to do is find these little carriers that are centralized in a specific area, right? And reach out to them. Where it would be so hard for me overseeing 100 stores and 3 distribution centers to go and find a little carrier out in Austin somewhere that can do like a 2-hour turnaround delivery, right? It can be done, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you I'm not going to say unfortunately, right? You have to rely on
just say the truth. Ron never holds it back. Ron just tells us the truth.
You have to rely on brokers as much as the carriers. They're important to us, right? Like they get our stuff done. Now, obviously not all brokers are great, but then again, not all carriers are great, not all shippers are great, right? So you can't generalize. But to us, brokers are important. They're an important part of that partnership. But I get it. A lot of people, especially kind of older, they have certain experiences, right? Where they got screwed over a lot by brokers. And so there's that reputation. But really, at the end of the day, when you get a good broker, it's very beneficial to a business, in my opinion.
So how long does that reputation last? I mean, how do you shippers even figure out which brokers are good anyway?
Damn, I was wondering the same thing, Adam. If we're good or not.
Wait a minute. If you come into it with a negative mindset of broker's not going to work for me, I'm going to tell you, broker's not going to work for you. You got to go in thinking of it as a partnership, don't you?
No, because remember, who said the strip mall brokers who they're afraid of? Yeah, exactly, Andrew.
And I get that, but how do you vet them, Andrew? How do you know which ones are good?
Good question,
Andrew.
Well, my experience kind of comes from two sides. When I'm on the shipper side, I've always been with a very large shipper. So when they leverage brokers within their transportation spend, it's usually one of the bigger ones. When I was into broker life, I was at a small broker. There was 5 of us. But we were part of a larger service offering. We did some, managed transportation and things like that. And I truly believe that the brokers that only offer a truck, where I'm just gonna, as a shipper, hey, I need to get the spot load covered. I'm over my commitments with my carriers. And the brokers that are out there doing that,
what does that mean? Over my commitments with the carriers? What does that mean?
So if I have an agreement with a group of carriers, like your average shipper is probably working with 22 to 35 carriers. And I'm going to do, 10 loads per day with this carrier. Now I've got a hot load, I've got this, whatever. It's on a lane. You call them up and say, hey, I don't have capacity to help you out. I gave you my 10 trucks. Now I'm going to the spot market. I want to go out and get this load covered. Those smaller brokers are kind of harder to work with if you're a large, like a CPG company. We do 4,500 loads a day, right? So, I'm trying to stay away from those smaller brokers. I'm going to use a larger broker that brings something to the table beyond just a truck, or I'm going to use a service that allows me to go and gain capacity without using a broker and save my 16 to 18% or whatever that might be.
Ron's got his thinking face on, so I always know. I know.
Yeah, I know he's about to blast me.
You know what the thing
okay.
is? You guys want to know?
No,
I know
Ron is
every
about to
face
blast
Ron
you,
has.
Andrew.
Every face.
Ron is about to blast you. I can feel it.
I can.
A lot of that
it's
falls
all
on
right.
the
I got shoulders.
A lot of that falls on the broker though too. I mean, when you're approaching a shipper, researching on what they're, can you handle what they have going? And then also, they talk about how does a shipper vet, a broker. Give them
TJ's dropping the bombs.
Give them something to vet. Bring something with you. Bring some, some accolades or something. Whatever you've done. Bring something to the table so they can vet you a little bit right off the spot to see if it's even worth their time. I mean, that's the biggest thing is, they may say they don't want to set up brokers. They just want to take the time to do it. Do you have something? Give them a reason to maybe take the time to do so. And if you're calling on shippers that are not going to work with you just because of what you can do, then learn from that. But then kind of narrow down who you're going after. I think that helps.
Ron, what were you going to say?
No, I quite honestly, I think we're overthinking it.
I was
brokers they come with a business model that allows you to connect the smaller carriers, but don't give us more credit than we're worth as shippers. I mean, we don't.
The mysterious shippers, like
at the risk of being shitty, this is kind of like shouting in an echo chamber. You've got brokers and carriers all kind of saying the same thing that you hope that shippers care about, when it's just not the way it works from a practical standpoint. We don't like brokers usually because brokers are screwed up somehow. Big brokers are no different than big carriers. There's a lot of you guys. It's just math. When you're talking tens of thousands of brokers and hundreds of thousands of carriers, that's a lot of folks that we're able to reach out to in order to deliver our loads. So I get the academic exercise of discussing about, what's going to drive this, that, or the other, but there's a bit of overthinking, to be quite honest.
Ron, I can save you 20%. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to talk.
Ron, we can save it.
Seriously, say that and I'll never talk to you. Because it's literally
I'm just playing. I'm sorry.
No, he knows.
I had to.
Oh my lord.
But
He knows. We've been doing it for a while.
But you don't like
David. Wait, did David say something? David?
I'd be willing to wager that probably a very, very high, like 98% or more of shippers use a broker, because you're missing the fact of all the big carriers. And Ron said, no, only asset, and he disagreed with me. But I think that if everybody has their relationships with some sort of broker, and maybe it's a large carrier that has a brokerage division where they leverage, I'll give you brokerage business if I get your assets. Like there's so many different scenarios to say that a shipper will not use a broker. The shipper's an idiot if he thinks that way.
Can I ask, Ron, can I ask you something?
Adam, do that to me though.
One, I think you misunderstood what I said. I absolutely didn't say that all shippers won't use.
No, not all, but you said that shippers. I said every shipper uses a broker. You said not true.
David Spokesbell.
No, there's absolutely shippers that don't use brokers.
Absolutely.
Are there really though?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That doesn't have
Okay, can I ask you? Can I ask Andrew? Ron?
Yeah, what did Andrew say?
It's a ridiculous question. What do you mean, are there shippers that don't use brokers?
Yes, there are shippers that don't.
I don't believe it.
For sure. Yeah, there are.
For a fucking second.
I think so.
Okay, so here's the thing. Ron, is there a stigma among shippers? Ron, is there a stigma among shippers? If a shipper uses a broker, are they looked down upon by other shippers? Please answer truthfully.
No.
Is there a shipment judgment zone somewhere?
Andrew, you gave a face like you were gonna throw up.
Andrew's pissed because we're not making sense to him. Like, what do you mean? Like, are you looked down upon? Like, if you're trying to grow your business,
I feel it when I talk to shippers. I feel it. They're like, "Oh, yeah." Sharon said it last week. "Oh, yeah, I work with carriers and brokers." And I was like, "Why are you acting like that?"
But
David, what do you
I
think?
didn't hear the second part of her answer. She's been fucked by brokers.
Yeah, but listen, you know how many carriers get screwed too?
But wait, everybody's running around. This is like the argument of it cost me $1.50.
No, but you can't listen. If you're going to judge every, you know, that's like saying for Cassandra that 98% of lawyers give the other 2% a bad name. Like you can't judge. Yeah, but it really only applies to lawyers. It doesn't apply to brokers.
Yes, it does. It absolutely applies to brokers.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's 99.99%, and we're just the 0.01.
Yeah, Shipmolo.
When I was working as a broker, the number one thing I heard was, hey, I'd like to use you, but your neighbor screwed me over. It was never about what I had done to them as a broker. It was about what some other broker, and it may be a straw man, it may not be. And that's something that it's probably, it's not fair. It really isn't. It's not fair to a lot of different brokers. It's not fair to a lot of carriers, to have that.
Ingrid, you're making a face down there.
Here's the one point I think everybody's missing. Shippers are just as culpable as everybody else in this giant circle of mistrust. That's the problem. It's just mistrust everywhere. There are plenty of carriers that have fucked over brokers. There are carriers that have screwed over shippers. There are shippers that have screwed over brokers. There are brokers that have, because it all comes back to like, how can I make more money today? And the people that have those short-sighted mindsets are the ones that screw everybody else.
There's bad people in every company and every organization. It's just cyclical industry.
Ingrid, what you got down there, Ingrid? Talk
Yeah,
to me.
Ingrid, I'm loving the facial expressions. I love it.
Ingrid is pissed off down there, so I want to hear what Ingrid has to say.
Yeah.
I'm not pissed. I'm just saying that I'm with Ron, and I'll say it like this. Everybody's overthinking this. The whole thing is the supply chain and the industry is not going to function without one person, and that's shippers.
Yep.
If you don't have a shipper, nothing's going anywhere. Nothing's going to be provided. Brokers aren't going to have a job. Carriers aren't going to have a job. And who's going to give a shit?
Uh-oh.
So, when you step back, and if you want to start putting the chain how it rolls, instead of putting it across an equal plane, quit talking down to everybody.
Yeah. Let's see
the thing is, if you don't have Ron and these shippers, ain't none of y'all got anything else. So without them, you can't bring shit to the table.
Ron, how much did you pay Ingrid for that comment? Because I know you paid it.
And I think Ingrid, you've been looking good. The color, the hair.
Ingrid got the medallion hanging out.
Where's her medallion?
And stuff. I see you, Ingrid. Girl. You better,
see how good the shippers do when the truckers park their trucks and don't haul.
There you go, David.
There's no shippers. People can all carry the stuff on their backs.
David said it'll never happen.
It'll never happen.
Yeah, Ron says
it'll never happen.
It'll
that
never
won't
happen.
ever
It's a
happen.
bullshit argument.
Dude,
That
Adam
is
is
exactly
quiet
why Walmart
right now.
has a private.
It will not happen.
Anytime
Let me tell
Adam
you
is quiet, it's an issue.
Let me tell you how that'll happen. It won't. And here's the deal. You may get a handful. There's 4.1 million truck drivers in the United States.
That's a figure.
87% are owner-operator, small companies. That 13%, they can handle pretty much of the volume that needs to be taken care of because of how many units they have. Do you think Walmart and Knight and Swift and all of these companies can't handle the volume that the shippers need? You dadgum right you can, because all you got to do is work on scheduling, on receiving. That's the easy part. And I'm going to really probably piss somebody off, and anyway.
Do it.
We love pissing people off.
You know what?
Do it.
You can't do without shippers, right? And you really can't do without trucks.
Truth
But
is
by
love.
God, I can go into a shipper and I can work a contract with them, and I don't need a broker. A broker
So why do we have
is
brokers
an
at all?
asset- and a broker is a great asset to me that I don't have to go do that. They
So
are
a
the
broker
ones
is a
that
want
go.
and not a need.
They got, well, yeah, because I got 2 customers that I can walk in the door right. Well, I can. I mean, I got 4 loads of chickens that come out of Morganton, North Carolina to Vernon, California every week. And all I do is walk in the door and sit down and go with my contract. CR England tries to steal them all the time.
Come on, baby.
The
The huge difference
thing
between
is-
chickens and laptops, $1 million loads.
Good job, Jeff.
Really?
Oh,
well, yeah, but here's the thing. Freight's free.
No, it's not.
Freight's free. When you load it in the box, what's in the box?
All depends. All depends.
What does it depend on, Jeff? What does it depend on?
Yeah, you're talking about the liability, the cargo value. Is that what you're referring to? Or?
Oh, it's cargo value. I mean, working for Panasonic and managing, $100 million worth of freight. I never used a broker. That's why I became a broker, because I know the good ones and the bad ones. And I know that I can do a lot of things that other brokers can't, because they don't know what my expectations are. And working in that type of industry, I know what they're looking for. I know the type of expectations.
What are they looking for?
That's going to meet their goals.
Yeah, do tell us.
You can't tell me that you know what they're looking for and you don't tell me what they're looking for. So what are they looking for?
They're looking for consistency, on-time delivery, performance, no claims, control. They want the
Ron has
control
taught
of
us
the
that
little
every
guys
broker
and
will
the-
say that they are on time, no claims. Right,
Every
Ron?
broker will say that.
Told us that.
You got to vet these
I don't
guys.
think as a broker, it's about having no claims. It's about how you manage your claims. Yeah.
Ooh, who just said that?
Andrew,
Who said that?
manage your claims.
That's
But it's
true,
a
Andrew.
process that
A lot
they
of
have to
brokers.
put
There are a
into
lot of
it
brokers
in order
that
to manage it.
I'm going to say this. You don't put 50 M16s in the front of a drive van, dunnage down from the Colt manufacturing plant over to Quantico, Virginia, to the FBI Academy, just because you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Uh-oh. What you think,
And
Dave?
there could have been 22 people have done that load, not just me.
At the end of the day, it comes down to the processes and the avenues you're going to find the brokers or find the carriers, because that we talked about it. Everybody complains about the load boards, because that's a load board's bringing all three of them together. And how do you know which one's good and which one's bad? That's where everybody's getting screwed over. What's your avenue? Like, how are you finding them? How are you? And if your process is off, you're not going to like brokers, because your process isn't finding the right ones, and you don't like the ones that you found, and you're not going to change it. So it really comes down to
So if you're a
my
seasoned,
shippers.
if you're a seasoned shipper out there, like Ron, let me get your perspective, or any shippers like Andrew. When you establish your network of carriers, brokers, your suppliers, do you look at any different other than these are the players in my network and that's where you stay? Do you go beyond that network at a certain point? Or is that you establish that over time and that's your team, that's your squad?
I mean, a network is what a network is. And if the network changes, you look for different players. But whether that network is brokers or asset based is going to be completely dependent on what the company's strategy is. And I get all the vitriol, but it seems, that's why I said it's overcomplicating it. I mean, different people look at it different ways, and why it matters, I don't necessarily understand. If you're a company, and it was Sharon, I think 2 weeks ago, talking about the threaded rods, they don't deal with brokers. Okay, so what?
Eric Riddle
At
said
Monster,
that, right?
we dealt with them a lot, and it worked for us because we got access to carriers we never would have had. We would have had Ingrid's, we would have had Antonia's, because I wouldn't have had to find them. My brokers would have found them, and it works for both.
So Ron, Eric Riddle in the comments, he says, then why are there brokers, question marks? I'm not here to start an argument, but we don't need brokers is ignorant.
What? Yeah.
Well, I think what I'm hearing is there's part of every company, even down to the person controlling the freight of the company. We all got to have strategies for ourselves, our business. So it's just having a strategy and what's best for that strategy. Some scenarios, a broker would be redundant. Other ones, it's very necessary. So I think it just gets super specific.
To my shippers out there.
As a shipper, the key as a carrier or a broker is to stay out in front of the shippers. Don't give up. Keep staying in front of them, because like Ron said, it's a network, and when he has to go outside of it, you don't want to look too hard, right? And if you're always out in front of it, you give yourself a chance.
Ingrid?
Exactly. And I'm going to say, yes, I use brokers. And the thing is, though, I choose and I stay in that network of brokers. There are many that I will not use whatsoever, because we all know how that works.
Ingrid,
like
how do you
Andrew
know
said,
which
you get
ones
fucked
you
over it.
will use and which ones will fuck you over? Or is it just experience?
I'm just stupid enough that I say that, I'm just dumb enough that I'll go give anybody a chance once. Once you give me, I can vet you and you vet me, and we seem to have that. It's when things go awry and things go to shit, then that's when I don't go back. But it's the same thing with me. If I have something that goes around, goes to shit, and you don't like it, then you're not going to come back to me either.
Ingrid, do you think that's something you can just get in an initial conversation though? Like, all right, this broker knows what they're talking about, just like I do when I'm talking to a carrier for the first time. It's like, all right, they're answering the questions properly. Like we're kind of coming to a common ground here. Like I see this thing working out between us.
See, this is where I've come to, and I guess it's just time, is I kind of know when you're bullshitting me, and I know whenever you know your shit.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%.
I mean, if I was new in it, I would not know what to question or what to doubt or anything like that. You know, and then when I start dealing with your dispatch or your brokers with it, and if I have a major problem with that, you know, all problems are solvable. You know, I don't get all bent out of shape whenever I, you know, get 15 phone calls a day and they ask the same question because they haven't got together or somebody didn't put something in or whatever. You know, you have to educate as well as they have to educate you of their way. But no, I'm one that I'm going to go down the alley of
Ingrid,
I got my questions.
This is interesting. Greg Roberts from Matson Logistics says, I don't prove my worth when as a broker when things go well. I prove it when things go wrong, and I work through to fix it.
Yep.
Chris Jolly, I
true?
think, says the same exact thing.
Yeah.
You'll never find that out unless you follow it.
Kimberly,
Ingrid's
what do you
right,
have to
though.
say, girl?
I mean, our company directive, I work with onboarding carriers and making sure they're successful. We aren't onboarding any more brokers. We have the ones that, you know, we're going to work with, but our
brokers. Why?
that's a company directive above me. I enjoy working with small carriers a lot. So I want to get those carriers onboarded and making sure that they're successful. And I mean, what Ingrid said, if stuff goes bump in the night for drivers, and I want to make sure that if they get the answers they need from the rest of our company.
Hey, sorry, I just want to echo Ron's point here. Like, the network is the network, right? And if it makes sense for your company to have a broker in your lineup, you'll have a broker. Big company, North America, whatever. If you're a small little regional shipper and you just ship locally with one carrier, great. But really, it doesn't matter. Like, chances are a shipper's going to know the value of a broker. You don't need to sell them on that, right? It's just, if it's their prerogative, right? If they want to use brokers, they use them. If they don't, they don't. But
yep.
I don't know what it is. It really depends on your business.
I would how much do you think it plays into you know, when you, like, your company's a little bit bigger, right? And you handle actually multiple different ships, multiple different companies. How much does that play down to the sales guy that brings that company in for you to handle their freight? That he says, hey, we'll handle all your freight. We're gonna go all assets. I mean, is that a big thing that they're selling just to that customer for you to handle the freight?
Oh, TJ, you know exactly where I work.
No, I mean, I'm just kind of setting it up because I do know the answer, but I'm just kind of setting it up for you to explain it because I think it's important. Me and Kim
does that a lot.
Me and Kim
knows the answer.
He is a good setup person, though. Like, TJ will set your ass up.
This is set
It's
up
like Scottie Pippen, man. Scottie Pippen.
He is like Scotty.
Is it JD? Are you broing out again?
Scotty should have got paid more. Come on, pay TJ more.
I am meeting good buddies here. Adam's become a good buddy. Andrew's become a good buddy. Everyone on here has become a good buddy. So, listen, you're not a buddy, okay? Because you don't bromance with me. You shut down my bromance and you eat lasagna every Friday with popcorn and wine.
And ask him awkward questions.
He gets nervous from your games, Cassandra.
Questions. Oh, he does. I know he does, you guys.
You know, TJ, you just made a great point about something.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was saying, TJ made a great point. You need it. TJ, when you said the quantity and there being a large quantity of shipments and product, you know, those are the times that I look at their needing to be a broker. That is definitely a broker, you know, a broker point right there. I'm like not the manageable truck for a broker in a lot of ways because I don't have multiple trucks. I'm not going to be and have availability at both ends at the same time or whatever. And I guess that's why I feel like I do, because I'm not that asset-based large company that can benefit y'all. And sometimes I feel a little more like I'm a pain in your ass than I am.
Never, Ingrid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ingrid,
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, to your point, Ingrid, it's the same way, right, on the other side of how your business is super unique and very niche and specific, which is awesome. Shippers are the same way, based on product or customers or their strategy. So it's kind of the same reverse, where some shippers really benefit from the very specific and agile things only brokers can do.
And that's what I was saying too, though. I was touching on, and like that's why I said with Kim, because I do know what she does, but it comes down to sometimes what you're telling that customer that you have. I mean, you're handling their freight. You're saying they want assets only, and you're selling. That's the reason you got the business, was because your assets only. It's something you just got to stand by. You may not get it. Like you may say, man, I really wish I could use brokers, but this is how the sales guy brought the account in, and it's just how it works. Whether or not you want to argue about it or whatever it is, it's just what it is. And, that's how it works, at the higher, like she said, sometimes at the higher up, they just make the decisions and you just roll with it.
Yeah, he's right.
And
Andrew,
if you abide by staying with your assets, and eventually if someone changes their mind and says, okay, we need to find a strategic broker. If you are the person that stuck by us and, did well on anything and was like updating your statuses and invoicing, and we eventually needed a broker and it'd be something that would fit you, like you would definitely be towards the top of the list if it would fit in. So
yeah, proving your service, no matter what it is, whether it's whatever they require, and then they could open up new opportunities down the road. It's just because you've already proved they're buying from you as a person, as a service, and then they can maybe branch out and actually maybe have a case for you to come in on something.
Yeah.
I agree.
How many
Okay, Andrew, you can't hate me. Andrew looks like he's mad at me.
No, I want to work with you.
What are some of your thoughts, Andrew?
Here's my philosophy. I don't think that I agree with Ron. I agree with Vitaly. I think that at the end of the day, every shipper is different. And even within those shippers, the people are different. And everybody has their own strategy. The one thing I think you do have to consider, at the end of the day, an asset-based carrier, unless they have a brokerage, has a finite number of assets, right? So the one thing that's really good for assets is consistency.
Good job, Andrew.
When you want to think about the value of a broker, it comes down to the volatility within your network. So it's not about how much freight you have. There's not really a difference if a shipper has 10 loads a day or they have 10,000 loads a day.
Yes.
If it's the same number of shipments every single day, you can use assets for all of them. However, if you have 1,000 shipments on Mondays and 2,000 on Tuesdays and 400 on Wednesdays, it would be hard to utilize just assets to manage that. You should try to use your assets for all the baseline of everything that can be consistent so they can develop their own network.
Yeah,
and
it's the leaf logistics view.
Some of the volatility. Now, once again, that's just an added caveat. I think we haven't talked about the volatility piece, but in general, every shipper is different, right? And
Dude, yes.
So know your freight, know your network, optimize your network, score your network, and work with the people who fit in those optimization parameters. And you have to know your stuff and your own data, right?
And know your capacity too. Don't tell them you can handle all 10 loads on Monday when you only have enough truck, and then you screw over. Now you don't have that relationship.
How many brokers out there actually know the vertical in which they're working in?
What do you mean by vertical? Could you give me?
You mean like knowing their pitch to hit?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
what does that mean, Jim?
There's brokers out there that go across many different verticals, right?
So the question, a lot of times, a shipper,
it wouldn't be a cross, right?
A shipper would be like, "Hey, what do you specialize in? What are you good at, Mr. or Mrs. Broker?" "Oh, I can do everything and anything up, down, and sideways," as opposed to, I specialize in X, Y, Z in this area. Is that what you're?
Yeah, because a lot of brokers out there actually work from the outside in, not from the inside out. They don't really know the trigger mechanisms of an organization that they're going after if they're not accustomed to that vertical itself. Whether you're in the CPG, the auto,
good job, Jeff. Good job.
So, I think that's highly critical for your success as an outsider looking inside instead of from an inside out and dealing with these brokers. Many years I was working as a shipper, distribution consultant, and now I'm working from the outside in as a broker. because I kind of have an understanding of that. But I was just curious about on the broker side, how many of you actually know the verticals that you're hitting, that you want?
I don't think many brokers, carriers, or shippers, and Ron's gonna kill me when I say it on the shipper portion, but I think there's a lack of understanding operational costs, business KPIs, and what the actual protocols and procedures should be across the entire board of transportation. It isn't just carriers that don't
Thank
know
you,
that.
Gov. Yeah.
Right.
It's not just a broker type issue.
So
I don't think they care. I don't think they care early on. I think as you grow, though, you start caring. That's when you start getting shut off because you don't know your verticals. You're doing this. You're saying you're doing this. You're doing too much. You get shut off from a couple customers. Opens your eyes. Like, hey, maybe we should really actually focus on this. I think it's a growing thing there too as well, and it comes down to top leadership.
And DJ, you already know this answer, but I want to hear from my shippers. How valuable is it, Ron or Andrew or Kimberly, when Vitally? Damn it! I want to make it sexy. Why? Okay, V. I'm going to say V. Fine. I'm just going to say V. How valuable is it when a broker says, "Well, this is what I do. This is my little box. This is my niche." And
can I get this first? So again, we focus on retail. Okay, so it's very rare that a broker comes to us and understands what we do because retail is very specific because of stores and malls. Actually, very recently,
why is that different than something like just fucking FAK?
It's all white glove service, right? So they need to understand that you're not just going dock to dock. It's none of that. You're taking maybe 2 cartons, maybe 2 skids. You're taking it maybe to 1 store, maybe to 18, right? You have to route differently. You have to account for malls and centers, right? So there's
all the way, all that, right?
Yeah. And even when you're delivering to a store, are you delivering to the back door? What's the handoff like? What's the procedure like for PODs and signage?
And brokers just move it to a main warehouse location, and then you have a final mile distribution portion?
Most brokers, when I tell them what retail really is, they're like, sorry, we can't help you.
Yeah, I'm confused. Yeah, that's...
And so actually recently, I had a broker who reached out to us and said, hey, we do retail. And I spoke to them. I had 1 meeting, and I'm like, I know that these guys know what they're talking about. And now we can have that discussion to the point where leadership was like, brokers, and then we came. They did their presentation to me. I passed the information on, and people were like, hey, you know what? Okay, add them on. So we are in the process of kind of getting them on now, right? So it's hey, if you come to us understanding that we have a very specific business, right? Sure, we can have that discussion. And if it makes sense for us, and if you can bring value, right? Not just reliability and on time, but technology as well, because some brokers leverage technology a lot better than others, right? Hey, great, we can do it. Another good example actually is flatbed. I used to work for a flatbed broker. And when people would talk to us, they'd be like, oh, wow, you actually understand flatbed. That's rare, right? But it can happen. You can have a broker who specifically focuses on flatbed and understands what coil bunks are, what straps are, what all that stuff is, right? So yeah, that's my perspective.
Ron has been preaching a lot of this to us for probably a month now. But Andrew, I saw you very excited about what V had said. It's staying V, motherfucker.
That's fine. That's cool.
I think that it's important to realize that, when you talk transportation, it's so easy to say, well, a carrier, a broker, a transportation guy, right? So what I've learned over the last couple of doing these, Ron's a supply chain guy. Transportation, if I remember right, he says like 5% of his day. The other part of his day, he's worried about raw stock. He's worried about other things. My history has been, I'm the operations guy. I'm the guy that's got to make that decision between, the salesman and either the carrier or the broker work and happen. So when we talk about these things and we talk about understanding what's going on and understanding those verticals, like Jeff had mentioned, it is important on the operations end. I want to know that when I pick up the phone and I call a carrier or a broker, they understand the operations end of it. How are you executing this? What value are you bringing to me? If it's just a truck that doesn't work for me,
absolutely.
Yeah, I need to know that that there's confidence that when I say I need something or we need help with this, that they're understanding that there's an upstream and a downstream of that, and that you can bring value to that. You can innovate. You can. I can get a truck anywhere.
Exactly what Jeff was getting at, the logistics guy. So that's spot on. That lines up.
You know,
And
I mean,
Kimberly,
They don't have to
It's the
know
same.
that. They have the best technology in the world.
oh,
Gives them open
Break it up.
visibility. And
breaking up.
transparency.
Gov, you breaking up?
They have open visibility into the world. They have open transparency and visibility with all these technological SaaS platforms out here, you know, so they don't have to have those conversations, Andrew. There's so many platforms that you can go look at the notes and figure out what's happening with your fleet. And you shouldn't have to have conversations anymore.
To my
out there.
To my shippers, do you guys actually look at the load boards to see if your own shipments are on the load boards? I always wondered that. Ron Kane. Oh, that's because you give it to people you trust and not.
Ron's like, I frankly don't care.
Hey, Ron Kane.
Double brokering though.
Ron Kane, you would have saved yourself a headache if you searched the load boards.
Load boards don't matter.
Why?
As a shipper, if I hired the right broker, I'm gonna be good for once.
Why?
No,
Keep
Ron,
drinking.
come
Yeah, I was about to say,
on.
Ingrid, make
Come
more
on.
drinking.
Another beer.
No, I've been
He's sobering up, you guys.
No, I've been sitting here quiet for a while, but I think that collectively as the group that's either talking or online, we've got to be careful from not turning into a broker circle jerk, which quite frankly is what it's turning into right now. Brokers don't have to defend themselves. And you guys that are brokers are spending too much time trying to defend yourself for what you do. You do great work as an industry because you provide a value to a lot of shippers. Whether it's all shippers or not doesn't matter. You don't need to go to all shippers because some shippers just won't use you and it doesn't matter. What does matter is you provide value to the shippers that find you valuable and figure out how you build that relationship. And to be blunt, there's been a lot of conversations, and I apologize because David's left, I can't say it. Him getting pissed off because I said that all shippers don't use brokers, from my perspective, is a dumb thing to get angry about because there are shippers that won't use brokers. Who cares?
And you sound like a chief sales officer. We need to hire this guy for sales. I like
That's
it.
why I have him on. You guys, he changed so many people's lives throughout his career. Like, this is why I push him on everybody. Like, if you guys want, seriously, you guys hire fucking Ron. Sorry, Ron, I don't mean him to
That's all right.
make you feel.
Just give me 2 seconds. If you're a broker and you do a good job, stop fucking defending yourself. Just do your job. Don't defend yourself.
Another quote for a t-shirt.
Just do your job. You do it well. I'm a shipper. I don't defend myself to other shippers. I don't defend myself to warehouses. I do my job. You guys go back and rewatch the last 20 minutes and you'll see a lot of yourselves trying to defend what you do. And it's not just this call. It's at industries. It's at bars. It's when you come to my office to meet. It happens. I think this is part of what the issue is with the industry is that folks think they have to defend themselves, and I don't think you do. You do a great job.
I think a big point there too.
I agree.
Ingrid is a great owner operator. You don't have to defend yourself to anybody. You deliver loads on time, and you've said it to me personally. You care about what's in the back of your truck. That's all that matters. You don't have to defend yourself, and that's where. Hey, and I'm not trying to be shitty, and I apologize. I realize it's Friday.
No, actually, that's why we call you the Godfather, because you fucking wrap shit up for us and give us the quotes for the t-shirts, and you tell us what we need to know. Because Ron, you know the graphic. We need to hear this. Yeah, we do. You know the graphic you have on your website, on your LinkedIn profile. You guys see it, where it's like a chaos, a little bit more or less chaos, and then it's a circle. Has anybody noticed he does exactly that graphic with our shows? And if he was not good, I'd call his ass out. But it really does sum up what we're doing. So this is what I'm going to tell you guys. Next week is a really big week. So those of you who are shippers, join me on Tuesday. We're going to talk about shipper stuff. We're going to get you some executives. Wednesday, we have 2 major CEOs joining us for Carrie's show. We have a major CEO joining us for Thursday's show. Everybody in this industry is going to have their own show next week. So join us. Jeff D, you lit up the house today, so I better see your ass on Thursday. TJ already knows he has to be there, and so does Jolly.
I'll be on the carrier show.
You can talk your shit. Shippers can talk the shipper shit. Brokers can talk the broker shit. Carriers can talk the carrier shit. We don't have to try to squeeze it into an hour show, which is what this is supposed to be, even though it's almost 3 hours today. So we don't have to squeeze everything into one show.
I like being with Rons and brokers. I like being with everybody because I learn. And just like Ron changes my dynamic.
I like being with you, Ingrid. I like with y'all.
Friday is never going away. I promise you that. But we are breaking up into different shows so you can get more specific and learn more intricate shit.
Hey, Ingrid, thanks for doing what you're doing.
Ooh, Jeff D, bringing it home.
What did you say?
Ingrid.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for doing
you.
what you're doing.
He says thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you very, very much.
We all love Ingrid.
I'm just part of y'all. I'm just part of y'all. Absolutely, 100%.
Hey,
and I want to
Jeff,
say this.
I don't know what that was, Jeff, but just so you know, Ingrid is my girlfriend, so.
And I would
have a boyfriend, so hold on.
Andrew, you didn't escape me for a hot fucking minute. So don't get comfortable,
no.
Andrew. Don't get comfortable. Next time Andrew comes back, we're going to have some real questions for him. Thank you guys. You guys are amazing.
I'll be missing you, Love Gov.
We love you, Godfather. We always
Have a
will.
good weekend.
Everybody, tune in for Godfather next Tuesday. Bye, guys.
That's right.
Bye, everybody. Have a great time. I got to get on the road.
We
I'm
love
sitting
you.
on a ramp.